supposed to introduce you. Wait, she's not here yet. I just wanted to make sure I knew you. So, as soon as she gets here, there you are. How you doing? I'm good, thank you. So, yes, I found her. So, thank you. Michelle. Is this where you'll be? Yes, I will be. Okay, I'll find her and we'll come to you. Yes, very brief, yeah. Good morning, and welcome back to the quarterly regular meeting of the Tennessee Board of Regents, once again here on the campus of Tennessee State University, where we just had an outstanding program and update from Dr. Glover about all the exciting things happening on this campus. This morning, before we begin, I would like to take the opportunity to recognize two very special folks whom we are so pleased to have in our ranks at our TBR schools. The first is our newly appointed president at the University of Memphis, Dr. David Rudd. Dr. Rudd, are you here? There you go. Welcome. As you know, Dr. Rudd was our provost at the University of Memphis and was appointed to this important position on May 1. I think he has sent all of us a very warm and wonderful letter outlining his many initiatives and progress to date. So we're just delighted to have you on board and look forward to working with you. In addition, Ms. Kelly Key Carroll is here with us this morning, our new TCAT director at Hohenwald. She might have just stepped out, but I know she is here with us. Kelly was also named the TCAT director at Hohenwald on May 1, so we're excited for her. It's a very special opportunity for her. She has done yeoman service at the Hohenwald TCAT now for many years, so a very well-deserved promotion. And our hand to Kelly Key Carroll as well. There she is. Oh, You were here. You snuck in on me over there. Very good. Okay. I was looking up there for you. Congratulations, Kelly. And finally, although she is not with us today, she's taking a few well-deserved days before she assumes her position at Austin Peay State University. But in September, we will look forward to welcoming Dr. Elisa White, our new president in Clarksville. And we are so excited to have, again, another native Tennessean, just like Dr. Glover, returning to us from University of Texas at Tyler. So we will offer her a warm welcome at Austin Peay, and congratulations to Dr. White. I also want to thank once again our student and faculty representatives who joined us yesterday. Dr. Siegler was here with us this morning, the Faculty Senate President here. Michael Johnson just graduated from TSU, now entering his graduate program. Adam Wills, an outstanding faculty member at our TCAT here at Nashville, and Leslie Hall, both a veteran and a great student at our TCAT Nashville. They added great perspective yesterday, and we thank them for their time. With those announcements then, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Regent Duckett?
Here.
Regent Ferris?
Here.
Regent Freeman?
Here.
Regent Griscom?
Here.
Regent Huffman? Regent Humphrey?
Here.
Regent Johnson?
Here.
Regent Kisber?
Here.
Regent Markham?
Here.
Regent Reynolds?
Here.
Regent Rhoda? Regent Roddy?
Here.
Regent Smith?
Here.
Regent Stites?
Here.
Regent Thomas?
Here.
Regent Varlin?
Here.
Regent Wallace?
Here.
Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Annually, we receive a presentation from the Tennessee Road Builders Association on a child safety initiative they've had underway for several years now with our colleges of applied technology. All of us know how closely our TCATs are tied to our communities and the tremendous service they do, and this is yet another chance to highlight that service. So at this time, I would like to ask Bo Roberts from the Tennessee Road Builders Association to come forward and lead this presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Regents, guests. It's a pleasure to be back with you again to say essentially thank you. Thank you to the Board of Regents for involvement. It's quite deep, as some of you may recall. And I recall this story. Some of you may recall a longtime chairman of the House Finance Committee named John Bragg from Murfreesboro. You may remember John. John had a story that I first heard, at least from him, when he talked about good laws. Good laws are like good sausage. Everybody enjoys the product, but nobody should have to see them being made. Now, I've used that analogy several times on other events and other things over the years, and one could say maybe the product of a Board of Regents meeting, nobody should have to see John and Dale and Carol. They would have to see the sausage being made that ends up with this product and President Glover. But in this case, you are part of the sausage that everybody should see being made. The product are children, children who are exposed to a message that can save their lives, and we know has been saving lives. And you know, we've been coming here over the last several years and thanking specifically the TCATs, which we want to do today. We keep talking about the product and their participation in making these things happen, making these events. Well, what are we talking about? And we got to thinking, well, you probably, a lot of people may not know what happens when those volunteers and those TCAT people and others come into a school and meet with kids. We have a short video that gives you a little bit of a feel for what Ollie does when he goes to the schools and some celebrations as a result of that. Now, as a teacher might say, watch carefully. We won't have a quiz after, but if you watch carefully, you'll see several people in this whom I think you'll recognize. All right, now for the video.
A hard hat, vest, and barrel are all objects that an elementary school child has seen. But there's more to a work zone than just the objects in it. A child becomes a road builder to learn a key message in keeping workers safe. Please slow down.
When you got belts to bones, you're coming across like this right here.
and you're hooking it in, and this is the way you wear
Presentations
the shoulder
include
guard.
Ollie's law enforcement friends to help teach the children booster seat and seatbelt safety. The children need to know the correct positioning of the seatbelt to keep them safe in the vehicle. Belts to bones is the way we help the kids to remember this concept.
Does the seatbelt do its job?
This measurement game allows children to visualize how tall 4 feet 9 inches really is, and where they and most of their peers fall among that mark. Children realize they are not alone in needing a booster seat, and it encourages them to make safe decisions. Ollie brings a lot of excitement to a presentation. Ollie's cheer gives the children a chance to interact with Ollie and teaches them how to spell his name.
Back to your classroom and write Ollie letters or draw him pictures.
The mail shows what children learn from Ollie's presentation. Meeting Tennessee's state teaching standards is crucial for the program. You know, high fives are a great conclusion for every presentation. Each child gets one-on-one time to interact with Ollie. This forms a relationship with Ollie and helps to reinforce everything the child is taught throughout Ollie's presentation. We hope it will assist them in making good choices about being safe.
And I know at Tennessee College of Applied Technologies we have a lot of different programs, and just seeing the nursing students coming to represent Ollie, the Otter, and Tennessee Tech, it's a great experience just to
Educate the kids about the importance of wearing their seatbelt and their booster seats. And the kids love it. They love Ollie.
going out there, be professionals, and talk about seatbelt safety.
Well, now you've gotten a sample, and I think it's time that we bring on the lady whose inspiration started this with the Road Builders, Carol Coleman from Livingston, and her special guest, your special guest, once again, Ollie.
High five. He knows your trouble.
Turned his head.
Thank you, Bo, and thank you, Board of Regents. Now you can see why little kids get so excited when Ollie enters a room, and they really listen to Ollie's message. So I just want to make a couple of points. First, to underscore how vital the TBR is to this unbelievable success this Ollie program has had, and the lives that have been saved. The Business Media Center at Tennessee Tech is the operator and the lifeblood of the entire operation. Kevin Liska is the director, and Ollie Assistant Manager Callie Bird are here, And let me ask them to step forward and ask you to join me in saying thanks. Thank you, Kevin and Callie, on behalf of the Tennessee Road Builders for all the work you do for Ollie. You can look at the numbers and see where we are at the end of this school year, and the numbers keep growing. Secondly, involved with Tennessee Tech and the Road Builders, almost from day one, has been the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. You got from the video a taste of what an Ollie presentation is. Well, the TCAPs have helped make about a third of them happen, and we have reached more than 500,000 children, as you know. This is the reason we ask your indulgence to allow us to come here and to recognize those important contributors. To present this year's honoree, I want to ask Kevin Liska to come forward and do that for us.
Thank you, Carol. And before we announce the 3 finalists, I want to say that this year it was very close, and we would like to recognize TCATs from Crossville, Athens, and Harriman as runner-ups. And now for the 3 finalists are in the audience. I'd like representatives from Newborn, Nashville, and Crump to come up, please. These are the 3 finalists, and while they're coming to the stage, next slide, Carol. One more. We'll take a look at the Ollie effect. This is a map before Ollie started on the top, and you'll notice this comes from the Governor's Highway Safety Office. There were 9 counties shaded in the deep purple. The deep purple counties represent over 97% restraint use in real crashes by kids. That was the first year that Ollie started. In 2012, there are now 32 counties that showed in real crashes, over 97% of the kids were wearing the seatbelts. That's outstanding data, and that shows the Ollie effect and the impact that the Tennessee College of Applied Technology Centers have had on this program and on children in Tennessee. So now that we have our finalists here, the runner-ups this year are, we have Crump and Nashville, if you'd like to come forward. And we will present certificates to the runner-ups. Maybe kind of stand back a little bit this way. Carol will join us in presenting certificates. Just maybe move back from the stage edge a little bit. So, great. And Ollie is there. And we would like to have, again, Newborn come on up and receive the final Ollie Award this year. Go ahead and move to the right here. Congratulations, Newborn, as the winner of this year's Outstanding Ollie Award presented by the Tennessee Road Builders Association. Congratulations to all. And thank you, Board of Regents, for allowing us to make this presentation. And we're really excited about the impact that is going on in the state because of this program and all the help.
So if you would stand by, Kevin, too. I think the Chancellor, Regent Varlin, is chair of our TCAT committee. Would you guys like to do a quick photo together, too?
Excellent.
Sure. Okay. I want to stand with Ollie.
You can turn around here and I'll...
Ollie, you want to wave to the audience since they have a seat?
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Tennessee Road Builders. I've never heard of the Ollie effect, but now we're all very, very well educated. And I just learned our Newbern TCAT, this is their 4th time to win, so that's pretty outstanding in and of itself. That's great. All right, everybody, remember as we head home this afternoon, belts to bones, just for the record. Well done. We now will move to our consent agenda. All of our materials under the consent agenda have been made available to you, and of course, by using a consent agenda, we can save an extraordinary amount of time and dispense with reading of the minutes from our important committee meetings. We can ratify everything on the consent agenda without further discussion, although if there is any item that you would like to have discussion on, feel free to withdraw that item now from the consent agenda. Does anyone have any item they wish to pull at this time?
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion from Regent Ferris, seconded by Regent Kisber. And with that, then, on our consent agenda, we have committee reports and minutes and the Chancellor's report of interim action. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this simply requires a voice vote. All in favor of moving our consent agenda forward, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Another one of our great points on the program is the chance to highlight folks who have been so extraordinarily generous to our TBR system, and I would like to call on Regent Duckett as chair of our Public Affairs Committee to give us a report on the most recent Regents Award for Excellence in Philanthropy.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. I appreciate the opportunity to present this report on the Regents Awards for Excellence. As members of the board know, and those in the audience, the Regents Award serves to recognize persons who clearly demonstrate generosity of time and resources to help our Tennessee Board of Regents institutions. Today, the Tennessee Board of Regents is proud to recognize the recipient of the Regents Award for Excellence in Philanthropy. The Bank of Oneida, represented by Mr. William Swain, was nominated by President Chris Whaley of Roane State Community College. Mr. Swain embodies generous giving, effective leadership, exceptional civic responsibility, integrity, and an undying belief that higher education is the key to improving a community. From the time he arrived in Scott County on June 3, 1942, to begin his professional life, he has been on the forefront of projects and initiatives to improve his community. Mr. Swain served as co-founder and volunteer president for the Highland Telephone Cooperative from 1953 to 1961 and the Huntsville Utility District from 1953 to 1981. And he helped to start the Scott County Hospital. He became president of First National Bank of Oneida and broadened his banking involvement to include a term as a director of the State Federal Reserve Bank in Nashville, president of the Tennessee Bankers Association, and a member of the 6th District Federal Reserve Bank Board. Mr. Swain provided financial management and advice during several campaigns of his good friend Howard Baker Jr. In this role, Mr. Swain expanded his experience from fund management to fundraising, a skill which served him well in various successful campaigns for the University of Tennessee. His exemplary service to education led Governor Lamar Alexander in 1984 to ask Mr. Swain to become a member of the new State Board of Education, where he served a 9-year term. Mr. Swain wrote a feature article for the First National Bank Chronicle in 1990 and stated, "The results of all these activities have given me the opportunity to have contacts and be able to make contributions to the community and to individuals in Scott County, which would not have been otherwise possible. Scott County has been good to me, and I hope I have been able to return at least some of what it has meant to me." In that 1990 article, he said, "The progress in Scott County has been significant, and yet we still have a long way to go. The economic future of our citizenry depends on its education. He has been an excellent friend of higher education and a visionary leader to make Roane State Community College State County Higher Education Center a reality. Not only did he donate the 44 acres of land on which the center is so beautifully situated, but he also raised more than $250,000 to equip the Howard Baker Jr. Library, which is located in the center. Next, he raised the funds to build a man-made lake and a multi-purpose athletic field on the center's ground." Mr. Swain's desire to expand the Scott County Higher Education Center did not stop there. In 1998, he took on the daunting task of raising over $500,000 to build and equip a 2,200 square foot multipurpose science lab. It saves Scott County students countless hours of commute time because they can now attend their science labs here instead of driving to Harriman or Oak Ridge. He also recognized the need to expand the Student Center at the Scott County Higher Education Center. He challenged the community to raise $60,000 to match the $60,000 he was given to this project. In just 4 short months, the funds were raised to build the 1,500 square foot expansion. Today, it offers students the opportunity to enjoy college life outside the classroom. Shortly after the Student Center expansion, he led an initiative to more than double the size of the Howard Baker Jr. Library at the Scott County Center. In 2006, he embarked upon a mission to make bachelor's degrees available in Scott County. Working with Roane State, he raised support in the community to build an addition to the Roane State facility to provide Tennessee Tennessee Tech University space to offer elementary education and interdisciplinary studies degrees. His enthusiasm and support does not stop with providing facilities for Roane State and Tennessee Tech. He has also been an ardent supporter of scholarship programs. All students from Scott County who enroll in dual credit classes receive a scholarship. When he learned that Scott County Higher Education Center needed equipment to be able to bring EMT courses to Scott County, he generously purchased everything needed for the classes. Mr. Swain's connection to Roane State can be summed up in his own words. I think that it is the most significant thing that's been done in Scott County in all the time that I've been here. It has had such an impact on all the community. It has a synergistic effect because if you are a parent and you are taking your time to come out here and to go to school at night, you are going to make sure that your children are working at their school too. So our future has to be in education. People are going to have an education, and be able to change and adapt, because they are probably going to have 6 or 7 careers, let alone jobs in their lifetime. He continues to serve on Rome State's committees and provide financial support. He recently told President Chris Whaley that he is studying his big next project to support Rome State's mission in Scott County. It is with great pleasure to acknowledge this Excellence in Philanthropy Award to Mr. William H. Swain. President Whaley is not available to add additional comments today, and I would mention that we are most pleased with the work that Mr. Swain has done, and President Whaley is not here because, unfortunately, he is attending funeral services for the untimely death of students there at Rome State. But please join me in congratulating Mr. Swain for being the recipient of the Award in Excellence this quarter.
Regent Varlin, it looks as if you had the pleasure to present the award to Mr. Swain. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much. It was just a pleasure to be there the day that Mr. Swain was recognized, and he is the sweetest, most delightful gentleman. It was just wonderful. His whole family was there, and he is definitely Mr. Scott County, but has such a passion, not only for Scott County, but for education, and very perfect selection for that honor. But I felt honored just to be able to meet this man, because he truly is just a very gentle soul who just wants to help, and very, very generous with his time, obviously, and resources. He's made a big impact and a big difference, and I know Dr. Oldham was there as well. It was a lovely, lovely afternoon, and I know Dr. Whaley was really disappointed he couldn't be here, but I wanted to make sure everybody heard what he's just a really nice man. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I bet my friend Regent Griscom has something he wants to add.
Thank you very much, because you too have known Bill for a long time.
I'm not counting the years.
That's correct. And I just want to echo everything that's been said, because I got the chance to meet Bill Swain, to have the opportunity to have him also as a mentor, in addition to Senator Howard Baker. Bill is one of the kind of people that you will find, he was behind the scene with all the things Senator Baker was involved in. But he's the one person Senator Baker could turn to who would give him the advice and counsel as a friend without expecting anything in return. And that, to me, and watching what he has done in Scott County over the years, and knowing what you have just said, Regent Duckett, about Mr. Swain, I just want to say that he is somebody who is very generous. He is very willing to offer his advice and counsel, which you really ought to take. He also does not look for a lot of credit for what he does, but when he does speak, it's well worth listening to, because he's given good advice for many years. So I really am pleased that we are recognizing his work. I've had a chance to be on that campus, to see these facilities, and to see the work that he has contributed. So I just wanted to add that, and I will say to my friend, the Vice Chair, who also has had the experience with Bill Swain over the years, that we both have benefited from that relationship.
Absolutely. No, and I was reminded when Regent Duckett was speaking just how far ahead of his time Mr. Swain is on so many fronts, including education, and saying that our future has to be in education, and recognizing that folks will have many career changes and many jobs. So very well said, Regent Griscom. Regent Markham?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would also like to send my best wishes and thanks to the Swain family. I served on a banking board with Bill many years ago, and he was generous of his time and talents in those days, and very generous to me at that time. It took me as under his arm and wing and mentored me at that time, and I appreciated that. And I wish and thank him very much for his generosity to this board.
Thank you. Anyone else? Great remarks. I will also tell you, and I mentioned this when we visited with Dwight Murphy up in Scott County not too many months ago, I was not too long out of school, went to work for Senator Howard Baker, and this native Nashvilleian realized pretty quickly that Nashville was not the center of the universe. It was Scott County, Tennessee, and there's proof of it. So, well, congratulations to Bill Swain, and thanks to all for your valuable contributions today. So he makes us all proud to be Tennesseans and is truly an example for all of us to emulate. So thank you. I believe at this time on our program, Chancellor, we are ready for your report.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. As we have done on several occasions in the past, I have taken the opportunity and the personal privilege to use my time to make remarks, to really focus on the strategic initiatives that your system office is engaged in along with all of our institutions, really designed to forward the completion strategy that was laid out for us in the Complete College Tennessee Act and has now been effectively focused for us through the Drive to 55. So I would ask Wendy Thompson. Wendy is Vice Chancellor for Organizational Effectiveness and Strategic Initiatives, to come forward and introduce two of those initiatives and some update information we have for you. And I think you'll find that they both relate somewhat to the conversation we had yesterday in the various committee meetings. So Wendy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chancellor, Madam Vice Chair, Regents, and colleagues. I'm pleased to provide you some information on two of our priority completion strategies. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background and some context for the presentations you'll hear this morning. So as many of you have heard me say before, in order for us as a system to meet the challenge and fulfill our obligations toward increasing the number of Tennesseans with a college degree by 2025, we have to be very strategic in terms of first setting our goals and then ultimately delivering on those goals. So when we got the challenge of Complete College Act, the first thing we wanted to do was determine exactly what our goal was. In other words, we wanted to know exactly what we were trying to do. So we established a system goal of awarding 43,202 credentials and degrees in 2025, and that includes bachelor's, associate's, certificates, and diplomas. So the next question we asked was, how are we going to do it? And as you've heard at the last board meeting and over the past few board meetings, we've identified 10 priority completion strategies. And these strategies are ones that we believe will involve multiple institutions and impact the greatest number of students. Each of these system-level priorities has a strategy team and a strategy leader. Now, these are in addition to the strategies that are going on at our institutions. And you heard this morning about two really promising initiatives, the Take 15 and book bundling. Our institutions have a variety of strategies that they're implementing that are designed to increase the number of students who complete on time. The TBR System Completion Delivery Unit has established a regular system of reporting routines that we use for updating the Chancellor and this board on our progress toward goals. Now, at the September board meeting, you will get the annual report on our progress on the trajectory towards 43,202. But at other meetings, so we do that every September, we give you the annual report. But at other meetings, we provide you with information on the substantive priorities and strategies. Now, this morning you will hear presentations on two of our strategies. The first will be a presentation on the business process modeling strategy. The second will be a presentation on increasing TCAT capacity. So each of our strategies has a defined goal or an aspiration that articulates exactly what success will look like once the work has been done. The BPM aspiration is to develop standardized processes and workflows among the 13 community colleges within the TBR system. Dr. Kenyatta Lovett with our Office of Community Colleges is the strategy leader for this particular priority, and he's going to update you on the progress toward their goal at this time.
Good morning, everyone. The Business Process Model Project has been guided, an overarching guidance is from the Complete College Tennessee Act of 2010. There's particular language in Section 8, which requires that the community colleges identify processes and services which we can make standard or centralize. And so that's the sort of the mission for the Business Process Model Project, is really related to the standardization of processes among the 13 community colleges. The project goals, in addition to meeting that mission based on that policy, the first one is to improve campus and system efficiency, and that is achieved through trying to make sure that the processes that we develop as a standard advance the institutions in some way to relieve some of the pressures from all the technical nature of the different administrative processes that they're involved with. We also wanted to build a framework for continuous improvement among the institutions. As technology continually changes, we want to make sure that all the institutions are up to speed and can make sure that they provide the right services to our students and stakeholders. The third one is to improve customer service to students and stakeholders. So there are things that we could do in improving communications with students, handling transactions between the different parties within the institution, as well as some of our service between the central office and the community institutions. And finally, we wanted to increase the utilization of our enterprise resource planning system known as Banner, which you've probably heard of, which you definitely have heard of, I'm sure. But Banner is, we implemented in 2007. There are a lot of components of Banner that we have not made use of, and we wanted to make sure that we fully leverage that asset to make sure that we were as efficient as possible as a system. Next slide. The project started in April of 2013, and it takes a three-stage approach. We procured Strata Information Group as our consultant to help us with standardizing these processes. The first phase, which began in April of 2013, is to bring all 13 community colleges into, for individual processes, to bring them all into one room, have them agree on a shared process that they can all agree to. And then the second stage is to begin training on that standard to make sure that everyone is up to speed on what we're trying to get them to do. And then the final stage is actually full implementation. So once we agree on the standards, we're trained, we want to make sure that they're fully implemented so that we can say that 13 have common, consistent processes across the 13 institutions. The project scope has been guided by a preliminary study in 2011 by actually Aleutian conducted that study. They identified 27 major processes in administrative areas. They also identified 255 activities that needed to be taken care of. Those activities range from ensuring that financial aid staffers have dual monitors and make sure they can accurately look at all the information they need to do for awarding processes, to something as complex as building a framework for continuous improvement and training amongst the 13. In all, there are 8 functional areas that we work with on this project. And the next slide details the 8 that we are involved with. Admissions, finance, financial aid, human resources / payroll, registration, and student accounts receivable or our bursars. And then another one was added as the academic administrators for a particular piece called faculty load and compensation, which I'll mention a little later. And finally, the information systems group is really involved in all those different functions because all of our processes, we want to go to a more technical approach to them, and they're crucial to that involvement. The process a functional area that I want to discuss today is the group for financial aid, the processes that we've been working on. Financial aid has been a very tough and challenging endeavor for community colleges as well as other institutions. Due to federal mandates, it's become much more complex, and you almost have to be a lawyer just to manage all the different regulations from the federal government. We also have changes at the state in terms of state aid with Hope scholarships and lottery scholarships. And finally, we have some challenges with private aid, such as Tennessee Achieves and soon to be public with Tennessee Promise. One of the things that we have agreed on and we have begun to work on with financial aid, and this is probably our one significant achievement so far, going back to the first phase of them agreeing on all their processes, they have already done that for the 27 major processes. So that's a pretty big deal to get 13 individuals to agree on how to move forward in the same way, and seeing that they've done it their own way for several years. But the first bullet really deals with the new process for handling the transactions between the federal government and the institutions. Prior to, there was a system called EdConnect with the Department of Education, which is a very manual process with a lot of errors. For most community colleges, that would take at least a half a day to a full day for someone to handle these transactions during the peak enrollment times. The Department of Education developed a new system called TD Client. And TD Client allows for a more automated process. So instead of a half a day or a full day, if fully implemented, you can handle those transactions in 30 minutes to an hour with very little touching or manual processing from the financial aid group. I'm glad to say that during our training, the group decided to fully implement TD Client, which I think they're probably one of the first institutions across the state of Tennessee to do that, and several are beginning to use that and realize some good efficiency gains from that. They also have agreed to begin using online forms, so they wanted to come together and do a common contract with the vendor. And those online forms will replace all of their handwritten manual forms that they have for financial aid applications and financial aid compliance. This again will eliminate a lot of manual entry, re-entry, or errors, and they have begun to use that, and actually Chattanooga State currently really benefits from the savings in dealing with actual online forms as opposed to mailed-in paper handwritten forms. Third, they have they've agreed to deal with nightly processes. So there are systems within Banner where you can automate your processes at night that are routine. Instead of having someone go in and manually do it every day, they actually run overnight. It's a function in Banner called UC4 that they have learned and been trained to utilize and have realized some efficiencies there. They've also begun to automate packaging and awarding processes. So a lot of those, again, packaging and awarding for students to know how much aid they would get, especially when a lot of them register fairly late. You have to make sure that those numbers are accurate so that you stay in compliance with state and federal regulations. And so they're automating those processes as well. They've come together and agreed on some standards for satisfactory academic progress, which is a big challenge right now to make sure that students are meeting their pace and completing in a timely manner. And then finally, they have been working on, it was prior to actually the Tennessee Promise being announced a few months ago, they had been working on Tennessee Achieves, which is closely related to the Tennessee Promise. And so they are working on a process to deal with the awarding piece for Tennessee Achieves and Tennessee Promise. Just to give you an idea of the Tennessee Promise process challenges for them, the awarding is last dollar. So the system would have to figure out what is exactly last dollar. So for Tennessee Achieves, a lot of the institutions are really dealing with very manual processes to wait until all the aid comes in, the scholarships come in to do that awarding. Some have actually begun to hire full-time employees just to deal with Tennessee Achieves. So what we have come up with is there's a system within Banner that does packaging and awarding, and it can actually calculate when is that exact last moment to get the total of the last dollar amount, so we can actually apply that to Tennessee Achieves, which will be soon Tennessee Promise. The next steps for the project, we will fully install a component called Report Manager for all institutions. All 13 will have that. So one of the pieces that we wanted to make sure is if we wanted to have an agreement on the 13 standards, that they all had the right technology within their institutions to make sure they could get there. Report Manager is a system that will allow things such as transcripts that come in, they can be scanned into the system, indexed, and actually communicate with the student that your transcript has been received. Once a dean or an advisor reviews that transcript and awards credits, it can also communicate with the student that your transcript has been reviewed and you should go and look and see how many credits you've been awarded for your entry into the institution. Also, we have added a piece to this project called Faculty Load and Compensation. Faculty Load and Compensation actually automates all of the adjunct and full-time contract processes. For the community colleges, a lot of times just to find adjuncts at the beginning of the semester, they may have to wait almost until class starts so they can get everything sort of ironed out. But then the contract piece is very manual, a lot of paper back and forth between individuals, and as well as the adjuncts must sign themselves. We're working to totally automate that where the approval queues are all electronic, as well as the contract will be electronically acknowledged. We will complete all of the training, which is phase 2 of the project. We are planning to complete that by October. Right now, about 90% of the training is done, so we're almost complete with phase 2 of the project. And we're also developing some very critical workflows that should be complete in October. I'm sorry, FLAC will be done in August, but the training will be done, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up on my rows, I apologize. But the training will be done in October for all of the entire project, and then the critical workflows will be complete by September of this year. And basically, they're automating their workflows. There are ways to automate things within Banner that we can build one process, design it, and actually distribute it to all 13, and they adopt it and make use of it. So instead of having manual processes that you're hoping that the human component of processes will keep that standard, we can manage those standards digitally and technically through workflows that we can manage at the central office. The next steps, we are beginning to build the implementation plans for finally finishing up the project. A lot of institutions have already implemented. Another good thing is some institutions actually had some of those components that we designed for the process standard, so they really didn't have to implement anything that had already been in place. Secondly, we want to begin the discussions on a common application, and we've started those conversations this month. We'll start with a consistent application first, where they're asking the same questions. Right now, the disparity between a full-time application, one can ask 33 questions, another institution may ask 71 questions. We want to make sure that they ask the same number of questions and not impede on the progress of a student to apply and quickly get some response from the institution. So we're looking at a plan for first getting to a consistent application and then building a common application where a student can potentially fill out one application and actually go to the right institutions that they want to apply to. And then finally, we want to build a plan for ongoing training strategy. What has been identified from this project is the community colleges do want to come in together a lot, share and come up with common processes. And also they have been shown the ability to train each other on a common process if they're an expert in a particular area. And we would like to look at some ways of ongoing training to make sure that they get the support they need to maintain a more efficient practice at their institutions. The accomplishments for the project, we are under budget through an RFP process and redesigning the approach. We actually kind of wound up procuring a consultant at half the rate of what we thought we would need to procure. But we also, in terms of the overall project and budget, we're about 15% under budget so far. We're also ahead of schedule. The thought was maybe it would be 2 to 3 years to implement process standards across the 13 community colleges. We started in April of 2013. The hope is to possibly be able to complete that in 2015. So I think we're doing pretty good there. We've also developed a culture of collaboration. Bringing all the institutions in to talk about particular problems in their processes has been very helpful for a lot of them, especially the smaller institutions who don't have a lot of staff for particular functions. And so they actually do want to meet a lot to discuss how we're going to approach certain things, how will we code certain things, how will we deal with or interpret things that have come down from the federal government. And so there's a culture out there for collaborating among the 13, which has been very good. And related to that, there's a culture of innovation. So there are always some superstar out there in one of our functional areas that has figured out a particular problem technically that others have not, and bringing them in to collaborate will allow everyone to innovate at the same time. This has increased productive capacity, again, with TD Klein for financial aid. They've been able to resolve an issue that cost them a half a day to a day worth of work. All of the processes will have some associated efficiency benefit for it. But right now, those who have implemented have given me some feedback that they are really seeing some great benefits in terms of what these new processes are doing for them. And then also we have a process methodology now for other challenges. So Tennessee Achieves is one that we really want to get ahead of the curve on before it becomes live at the community colleges. And they have already begun to address that. The sales program was another program that we wanted to build processes for to fully address. And so all of the new problems that come around on the community college level, we now have sort of a framework to dealing with those issues and problems.
Well done.
Any questions?
Questions, comments for Kenyatta? Mr. Ferris.
I have a question. Appreciate what you're doing, Vice Chancellor and Sir. What sort of savings are involved with this? I mean, you're streamlining things, making things more efficient, consolidating activities. Have you looked at how much money the system would save by what you're doing?
We're building that framework. It'll take maybe 6 months to a year to really get a good standard of how we will evaluate efficiency. So right now, I don't have any numbers in terms of savings, but once we have the processes laid out, I think we will start to calculate what those savings will be, whether it's hard savings or soft savings.
Yeah, it would be good to know that. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In your presentation, it wasn't evident to me that beyond the presentation or implementation of the program, I didn't see any discussion about how you're going to measure your effectiveness or how you intend for those measurements to then be turned around and improve the system. Because it'd be exceptional if you could install this system and it not be in some ways inefficient or ineffective. I'm just going from what usually happens. And I'm just wondering, it may not have been in your program, but it may be a part of your process. Have you identified effective key measures that are going to determine whether or not this is a successful transition?
I think that's part of the framework I'm speaking of. All of that is sort of embedded in it. We wanted to first see if we could get them to the same process standards, but prior to, there really haven't been any efficiency measurements for administrative processes. So that's really a build that we have to do that I don't think we have much guidance for out there in the higher ed world in terms of how do you interpret efficiency. So again, that's part of the framework that we'll
I think it's a fair statement to say that this body will be looking for that information down the road. You say sometime after October or toward the first of the year, is that correct?
The attempt is to do that if we can get there. That's my plan for the.
Okay. Is this only applied to the community colleges? Or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you planning to make this also applicable to the universities?
I've received that question several times from the universities. Right now, it's really because the mandate is for the community college system that we've dedicated those resources for that. But there are opportunities, and I do communicate with some university professionals about some of the innovations that we've done. But for right now, we want to make sure that the community colleges get up to a standard. But I think what we develop right now has actually provided some good information for the universities to also innovate. So, but right now, no, sir.
Well, I'm the new kid on the block here. Where did this mandate come from? Did it come from this body or some other body?
Legislature, the Complete College Tennessee Act. It's embedded in there.
Part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is your intention that if this is effective at the community colleges to maybe to carry it over to the university level?
Yeah, if I could, Regent Stites, I think a couple of things going on here. One is that under the statute, we're under a mandate to evolve toward a consolidated, comprehensive system for our community colleges. So this is very much part of that effort. Many of our universities, all of our universities and all of our community colleges, and by implication the TCATs as well, use a banner system as their fundamental enterprise resource management platform. At the universities, the scale of their operations are such that they have, and I think this is probably a fair statement, Kenny, the universities are more likely to have exploited the power of the banner system because they have scale, they have sufficient IT resources and other resources on campus to be able to better utilize workflows, to really harness the power of the system. That was not true necessarily across our community colleges. Any given college might have made significant efforts in a particular area, but in terms of comprehensively using the software package that we use, I think it's fair to say that there's an awful lot of diversity and disparity. So this is a major step forward. If we can get all of our community colleges using the same business process, it then sets up an opportunity for us, and don't anybody get nervous out there when I say this, but it sets up an opportunity for us to then evaluate where, as a system, we might be able to really use the synergy of the system to perform certain kinds of back office operations, centralize some types of operations that would free up resources on the campuses so that folks could be more engaged in the business of direct student contact, direct student involvement and engagement. So this is a place from which we see some real opportunities to move forward in terms of efficiency. To the extent that those processes work for universities as well, I think we'll see a migration of universities to, if, for example, and again, don't anybody, Wade, don't panic here, but if we were to get to a point where, say, some aspects of financial aid could be centralized, and some of the back office kinds of things could be done either in the system office or outsourced to an institution that would work on behalf of all institutions, then what we would expect is if that works, and it works for community colleges, it might also work for the universities as well. So I think there'll be opportunities there to exploit the value of this project that will certainly benefit the community colleges, but also the universities. The challenges that we've had in the past, that while everybody uses the same system, it's very different. It developed very differently from place to place, so that simple thing, not simple, but things such as training. There was only so far that we could have system-wide training activities, because once you got down to a certain level of detail, the system was different at every school. At a minimum, what this allows us to do is to be able to bring in the folks who have common functional responsibilities across all 13 of the community colleges and potentially all 19 of our institutions for common training, common understanding. As modifications are identified, improvements are identified, they can be rolled out across the entire system. So this becomes the place from which we believe that we can make some very significant efficiency moves going forward.
If you please, Mr. Chairman, I would hate for this to become a system that was any kind of impediment to best practices, because we need to encourage all of our universities to do best practices. And it may be that the changes we're experiencing further down in the system that we currently have are changes that were made because members, universities believed, or colleges, as the case might be, believed that those changes were improving their practices and identified them as best practices.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that our system that we're implementing will reward best practices and in fact incorporate those throughout the system wide, so that everybody has skin in the game, if you will, to come up with a ultimate process that is best for all concerned.
Right. And that really is the basis of the business process modeling activity. That the attempt has been to identify the best practice in each of these 255 activities in 8 functional areas, and then take that best practice and apply it across the entire system. So
well, most of the time, those best practices don't all come at the inception of the project and process, and so I'm hopeful that
absolutely
there will be latitude in here for, as a university or as a college may determine that something would be a better practice, that it won't be so rigid as to prevent that from happening.
No, and it won't, and that is kind of the heart of the continuous improvement aspect of what this project really will lead us to. Absolutely.
Well, that brings us back to what I was saying originally. If we don't identify the best measurements, then we're not going to be able to determine what is best practice, because you can't improve what you don't measure.
Right.
So I'd encourage you and your staff, as you prepare this and go through the universities, to really spend some time in the cooperation with the universities to determine, and the colleges, to determine what in fact is the best practice at the moment, and then figure out a way to measure that to see if in fact it's turning out to be what you thought it was going to be, because many times it does not.
And I want to add a point to the hard and soft savings for, and Chancellor, you rung my memory on that. For the community colleges, a lot of times in terms of determining efficiency, there are some processes for a large shop that they could eliminate part-time dollars or maybe even save on a position. For a lot of the community colleges, because they are so lean, that one role may serve several different functions. So there's no real hard savings in terms of position savings or employee or human capital costs. We would have to measure it some other way. So some of those areas may not have the total hard cost that we can measure, just because there's nowhere else to cut at these institutions in certain functional areas, because that means that you'd get rid of financial aid director, because they actually are probably them and one other person in that actual function. So a lot of it will be soft savings in some issues for the community colleges just because of that.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Regent Freeman?
So I think what I heard you say is when you get done with this, you'll be able to do more with less. And you'll be more efficient, and you'll, at some point in the future, bring us some measurables.
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay. I like more with less.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
That's what you was trying to say.
Yeah, you did it better.
Well done. You have a lot on your plate.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
And I
Gary.
think you get the message that the group's looking for bottom line, hardcore data as we move along. So thank you for all you're doing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kenyatta. Wendy?
The next strategy we're going to hear about is the increasing capacity at the TCATs. The aspiration for this particular strategy is, as stated on the screen, to increase the number of credentials awarded by increasing space and utilization at the 27 TCATs. Now, there's a specific trajectory for this particular strategy, and the 43,202 credentials that we anticipate awarding in 2025. Of that number, we anticipate that 10,535 of those will be TCAT credentials. So that's a specific answer for the TCAT strategy in terms of what are we trying to do. We're trying to award 10,535 credentials in 2025. Now, I think yesterday you probably received some preliminary award figures, but again, at the September board meeting, we give you the actual numbers of credentials that shows where we are in terms of our trajectory. So you would have gotten the final numbers last September on TCAT awards, which showed that we were slightly above trajectory in terms of TCAT credentials. Now, in terms of an approach to this particular strategy, the strategy members for this particular strategy are from both the TCAT office and the facilities office, and they're working together to develop first a system plan and then a system process that can address the two distinct but related areas that we think of in terms of capacity issues. One is how to handle issues related to student demand, and second is how to handle issues related to industry demand. Dr. Perrier is going to update you on some of the work that the TCAT office has been spearheading in terms of student demand, and David Gregory will talk about how their master planning process fits into all of this. So I'm going to call on Dr. Perrier and David Gregory.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Waiting lists aren't going to be that bad. We're going to be a little more excited, but I'm excited to be here and share with you some information that the TCATs have been doing towards our waiting list numbers. The TCAT wait list is critical as we look to see how we're going to develop capacity and to know where we need to develop that capacity. So when we first started to look at this, it seems like a long time ago, although I don't think it really has been. When we started to look at it, what we discovered is that we really didn't have a wait list. We had an interest list. Students would come by, or potential students would come by campus. There was no charge to fill out an application. They'd fill out an application, and maybe today they wanted to be a welder, and maybe tomorrow they wanted to go into building trade, so they'd come back and fill out another application. Or they would just fill out several applications at several institutions. And what happened when the campuses would then call and say, we're ready for you to come to school, you've got your paperwork, you've got your materials, and they would say, no, I don't think I want to go right now, just keep me on the list, I'll come back another fall or what have you. So we didn't have a wait list, we had an interest list. So as we moved towards this process, we decided that we needed to decide on some common definitions that all campuses could follow and make sure that we were doing the right thing. And so as a system, we came up with a procedure to use for developing a wait list to put the names actually in our student information system. And you can see from the screen that they have to complete and submit an application for enrollment, identify one area of study and their occupational desire, proof of vaccinations, and then go ahead and file for financial aid or receive the information to file for financial aid or have a financial plan ready so that they can pay for school when they get there. This also helped students. Other TCATs added some requirements, such as they have to come to orientation, they have to complete the key train test. Each campus could add items, but they had to at least do the minimum. And this way it was able to say that we were all measuring the same information. This actually happened at the November directors meeting. We had worked with campuses prior to then. They adopted the new procedure. We put it in effect in January of 2014, and this is our second term to be using this plan. As the slide indicates, the person has to go through the same list until everything is met, and they can have additional items. And we started with our non-allied health program simply because quite frankly, it was just the easiest thing to do first, so we tried to do that, and that encompasses about 80% of our program offerings. So we did take the biggest bite first. On the next slide, we have the definitions for, again, the wait list for allied health. And as I said, we concentrated on non-allied health in the beginning because it was easier to kind of corral those requests. Allied health is, they still submit an application, they still choose a program, they still have to do their proof of vaccinations, and they still have to do financial aid. What varies just a little bit is some campuses will keep allied health wait lists, some campuses prefer not to and only keep a list the term prior to the class starting. So there's some differences there, and some of that, when classes start and how many classes we offer, some of those things are dictated to us by the accrediting agencies, the certification agencies, and quite frankly with clinical sites of availability when we can schedule so many nursing classes or surgical technology classes. At the CDU meeting in May, it was suggested that our office work with the Office of Community Colleges and Academic Affairs, and certainly with our TCAT campuses, to see if we need to strengthen the allied health waiting list procedures, if we do need a common one across all 27 campuses, or if we can continue to sort of work through as needed on each campus. So as we have our common procedures, once the students has done their part, it's time for the TCATs to do our part and work with our students. And so as students turn in their application and are ready and have their financial information, then each TCAT will work with those students. They will provide the student a detailed cost and timeline for registration. They will add the student to the SIS system for priority enrollment and notify students when openings occur. Now, let's say I'm at Athens, I call a student and tell them we've got space in automotive, and the student says, well, I just can't come, I can't work my schedule right now, I'd like to come next term. We can skip that student and have that student stay on the list. But if we call a student twice and the student declines, that student is removed from the list and they start the process all over again. Again, the goal of this is to make sure that we have committed students. When we have an opening, we call and that student can come and enroll for the process. So that's sort of how we're doing that. Now, if the student does decline or remains on the list for over 2 years or 2 years, then they are automatically taken off the list. There's a saying in real estate called location, location, location. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Well, with the TCAT waiting list, our saying is more like timing, timing, timing. Because what we're doing right now, at least the last 2 terms, we are taking a snapshot about 5 weeks into the term to see where we are on the wait list numbers. How many students got in, how many are interested in coming, just sort of trying to balance those numbers and see where we are. But it is all timing with us because, as you know, we're open entry, open exit. Many of our campuses enroll students weekly. Students are on competency based, so those students You've got fast students, and you may have slower students, and you have some students that may graduate in the middle of a term. You have some that wait to the end of the term, and then you have a few that may have to go over to the next term. And so we have to kind of balance those numbers. But we take the snapshot, again, 4 weeks into the term, so we'll have some historical data to look at, and then we will review that to see. But a snapshot today may be very different if I went back to the campuses the middle of July. But, so the snapshots that I want to show you today is to show you the waiting list by the non-allied health programs. The top program that we have in the state is welding. We have 464 students or potential students on what we call the wait list to get into a welding program from all campuses. This is all 27 campuses. Automotive is next, industrial maintenance, computer information technology rounds out the fourth one at the very top. The interesting thing is these four have not really changed. They may change the order, but they're always the top. And I think that's a real reflection on the economy and what we're seeing. All four of these areas are high demand careers. Placement rate is excellent in those fields. In fact, industry wants as many of these graduates as we can put out, and it's literally just working through the numbers. So we're on track. The good news is, of course, that those are high-demand programs, but they're also offered at almost every TCAT that we have. And several of the TCATs have multiple locations, as you're aware of, so they may have multiple programs trying to start additional welding classes, partnering with secondary industry. And yesterday, our committee approved several partnerships with career centers, high schools, and communities that are willing to work with us to give us space so we can go in and offer a program. So, and most of those are in these four areas. With allied health, no surprise here. Nursing is the number one, practical nursing, 789, surgical tech, 134, dental assisting, 110. Practical nursing is one of those programs that lots and lots of students want in. The majority of our classes start in September, so in October, when I look at these numbers, we will not have this many students on nursing because the classes will have made. Many of these numbers reflect classes just waiting to start on those particular programs. But timing is really, really very critical here as we go through. As far as on campuses, how the wait lists are falling out, we have 11 campuses that have 100 or less on their wait list. And we actually see that as something good because they've managed their wait list, they have it under control, they've got committed students, and they can work through the students that they have as openings occur. We have 12 between 100 and 300, and then we have 4 campuses out of the 27 who have over 300 people on their waiting list. That would be Knoxville, Memphis, Elizabethton, and Shelbyville are the 4 campuses that have the highest wait list that we have currently, again, at this snapshot. On the next slide, when we look at the allied health, again, we have 3 colleges that are over 100, and then you can see the breakdown of the numbers, and then they drop dramatically as we go through the looking at the numbers. And I'm sure with everything that's going on and everything on your mind as board members, you're wondering if we're ready for the TCAT, if the TCATs are ready for the Tennessee Promise that will be coming up in 2015. If I were in your seat, that's what I would wonder. And honestly, I think we're like our sister institutions. I think we are getting ready. We are anticipating growth. We're anticipating the areas. But like our sister institutions, we are going areas that are high demand right now. Your welding, your practical nursing. With the influx of the Tennessee Promise, those are still going to be very popular programs. And not every single person will get in the very second that they want in. That's going to happen. And then you're going to have some campuses where there are some continued issues. The good news is that our campuses are working very hard to go ahead and address those areas, whether they're partnering with the high schools in the area, partnering with their community to find space. I feel like looking at night classes, hybrid classes, trying to do whatever they can based on budget constraints that they can do to try to be ready to meet as many needs as possible. Also, the thing to keep in mind that when the Wilder NAEFI started several years ago, the TCATs did not have a real spike in enrollment. Instead, we sort of had a little gradual increase, which was very nice because the campuses were able to maintain that. And we really think that the promise will be very similar to that as the influx of students come in. But we're working on it. We're trying to gear up and have plans. Keep in mind, we've got the new Elizabethton campus that will be coming up, that will be fully operable this coming fall term. Clarksville campus just opened a little over a year ago. We're working with Wilson County, so that area should be able to help serve students. Portland is looking at some areas. We've got the new Nissan Murfreesboro site coming on. Then, of course, Franklin County. You heard about our programs in Williamson County. So we've got lots of campuses and partnerships that are in the works. We hope that we'll be able to help solve some of the waiting list numbers that we have. And also we have 4 projects that are on the project list through David Gregory's office as well. So that's going to help again, and those campuses are Paris, Chattanooga, Jackson, and Shelbyville. So we're taking a look at that. So I guess in conclusion, I'd like to just tell you that I feel like we have a plan for 2025. I feel good about where we are. I feel good that we've done a good job in getting ready and having committed students, so when we make that phone call, we will have an enrollment ready to go and a student to process. And I think we have a plan. And we're looking forward to working and making sure that we continue keeping an eye on these numbers and working with campuses to meet those needs.
Thank you, Dr. Prieur. Regent Griscom?
What is the average wait time?
It will be program specific.
But on average,
but I would say probably no more than 1 trimester on some campuses.
Okay.
And some of it will vary. But if you'll let me know specifically which campus, I can get you a specific number.
No, I'm just thinking in general, because I got 2 more I want to follow with. Because looking at your numbers, it was just, what is the average time somebody's waiting to get into one of our programs? And so if it's 3 months, 6 months, because my next question is, do you have any data that says for those who wait, do they actually get in or do we lose them? And
no, they usually come. We don't lose a whole lot of students. With the new procedure, we pretty much know. And that is not true. I should not have said a full term. It is less than a term. I think that we can work with most students.
And if we lose them, do we know where they're going? Who are we competing against?
I don't know that we are recording that, sir. I don't, but that would be a good idea. I would make my guess that sometimes it's proprietary schools.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it'd just be helpful for us to know, what are the options out there? What are the, where do these people go if we can't put them in? What's the amount of time they're willing to wait? And then, as you're looking at this data, because to me, that's why I wanted to ask you, if it's 2 or 3 months, that's one thing. If it's 6 to 12 months, then you've probably got people who are trying to figure out, I can't wait that long, so what else is available to me? And I would like to sort of have that sense, because I think that helps us track and figure out, if there are other things that we need to be looking at as well to make sure we don't
That's something that we
lose
can
these people
add
to hit
and be
your
able
goals.
to do.
Okay.
Regent Duckett?
As it relates to the wait time, you said earlier, if I heard you correctly, that a person could remain on that wait list or be asked up to 2 times before they are removed from the wait list. My question becomes, if I'm on the wait list and the school calls and says a spot is available and I say for X, Y, and Z reasons I can't do it now, do I maintain my position on that wait list?
Yes, sir. You will stay right where you are until you decline us twice. So there, you do stay right. If you were number 3, you're still number 3.
I understand that, but I guess the philosophical question becomes, does that disadvantage disadvantage someone who is 4, 5, 6, and
No,
7.
once you say no, we'll go to number 4.
But if I'm holding that spot because I can't do it for whatever reason right now,
You will be the first person we call when we start going back through the, like, if I have 5 slots available, I will
Okay.
call the first people on the list. And quite frankly, we usually have to call about 10 people to get those 5 immediately to come.
okay, so you would automatically go on to number 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got
Oh, Regent Freeman.
I got a
thank you.
real silly question. Why do you have a waiting list? Is it under-resourced, not enough capacity?
Some of it is dealing with equipment's use and space in some of our laboratories and our programs. When you look at the automotive program, you only have so many bays. We are so hands-on that we've got to be able to give those students that part of their education. So sometimes we're limited because of the way the labs are and the equipment that we have. And then we also work with our accrediting agency. We have to place at least 60% of our students, complete 60% of our students, and place at least 70% of our students. So we try to manage with how many comes in, how many will go out, and keeping the class full. So we can do all those sorts of things as well.
But I was just thinking if I had customers waiting, which you do, I would look at how we could invest more resources to get more of those customers through the door faster. So I think what you said, it may be a resource problem.
Yes, sir. It's very easy to start night classes, and most of our campuses will offer night classes. So then you're running 2 automotive students, you're using the same equipment. It's when you go off-site and try to replicate that program, you start having equipment issues.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And then I was just going to follow up on that. Some of our community colleges have found opportunities in local high schools where they have resources, and obviously when school is out, they can use their resources to try to expand that, Daryl, because there's been a lot of focus on how can we, particularly the top ones, non-allied health ones that are just in great need. But back to the questions and the comments about trying to track some of how long these waiting lists are, it may be helpful in some of the particularly big, longer waiting lists for these particular programs, maybe even just to do, more quickly some work and figure out those, exactly what's happening in some of these communities in terms of, and I know Knoxville's a good example, we have a lot of other choices besides the technical colleges, but there are a lot more expensive choices. So I would be interested in finding out from Dwight, in our area, and we do have we do have some waiting lists, but we also have a lot of employers that are, very supportive. So some of these particular communities that have those waiting lists and that have probably some of these problems and some of the good and the bad of that, those might be great to start with and figure out, okay, I think everybody'd be interested in finding out more about what those waiting lists are and then what they're doing.
Okay.
Because but they're in for a whole lot more money if they can't wait.
In my 5 years at Murfreesboro, I really never had a single person, and this includes moms, dads, and husbands or spouses, to ever call and complain about a waiting list. We were able to serve the students and able to meet their needs. And just trying to figure out where they go and what they do and why they do that, it would be very interesting to me to kind of see and then be able to grasp those folks and show them the real difference. That, maybe if you could wait 2 months, this is what we can do. But it is a snapshot of what we're doing. Yes, sir.
I got one more question, and it's a simple one, I hope. If you had more money, could you reduce your waiting list?
Is my boss behind me? Great.
If you had more money, could you reduce the waiting list for nursing from 789 to some number south of that?
Nursing's probably, I could in some of the other programs. Nursing is one of those programs because of the way the Board of Nursing is set up, the approval of getting programs, getting the clinical sites. That's a little harder to do, but yes, sir, in some of the programs, the welding, the automotive, yes, sir. Operating cost and equipment cost would be very, very beneficial to our system. And I hope I said the right thing.
That's right. I think the answer was yes.
Okay, the answer is yes. I can assure you of that.
Regent Stites, did you have a comment?
What I'd like to address is, do you have any empirical evidence, and not just ad hoc information that you might have gained, about why you have twice as many nursing applicants approximately than you do welding applicants, when my guess is a very qualified welder will make more money than a qualified nurse? And I'm wondering if you've ever asked that question of the kids. My experience with young people, especially just coming out of high school, is many of them don't really know what they want. You can do that when you get a group of them together and they say, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "What do you want to do?"
And they all do the same thing.
They all do the same thing, and then wherever they decide to go, they all go there. And I think there may be some empirical evidence that nursing and surgery and some of the judicial and areas of law enforcement are benefited from the constant image that they see on TV about what a great career that is. Whereas I'm not aware of any programs other than Mike Rowe, who has lauded the fact that welding is a great career. And so I'm thinking that you might do some investigation of that, and you may move some of those welders down to information technology, computer information technology, or to some other open door that they just haven't thought about. And I'm wondering if we're doing any of that. Do we have a process in place for that, or is there a way you're measuring whether that's been successful?
The majority of our students, when they come to us, they go ahead and choose the program that they want to go into. We certainly will counsel them. We really do encourage them to visit classroom, talk to people. We talk about salaries. We talk about placement. We talk about completion for them. We try to work, once that student's enrolled, if a program doesn't work, we'll try to move them back and forth. A lot of times our students come in about 25 to 35, so they're adults. They come in ready and they want to be a welder or they want to be a nurse. What happens is sometimes in the nursing program, if maybe they don't make in the nursing program, they'll look at a computer class. They'll look at a phlebotomy program. They'll look at a business systems program, something like that, and then go back into it. To add to Regent Freeman's list, if I might, some additional marketing to let students know about some of those alternative careers, how great welding is for a career. Machining. When I was at Murfreesboro, I had an automotive mechanic student, a young lady from Woodbury. And I'll tell you, that young lady, I have no idea where she is now, but I have no doubt that she is making very good money. She was excellent. But in my 5 years there, I had one female go into automotive. I had one in machining, and pretty much they stayed right exactly how you said, sort of, well, this is what looks good on TV, I'll do that. We try to do a lot of counseling on the front end. We try to do some marketing with very limited budgets, but there is some work that we can do to help students understand alternatives instead of just that one job.
I have a comment on that as well, Carol. With the numbers issue, also the welding and all of those other programs are open entry, open exit, so there's constant openings in those programs, so the waiting list numbers are lower, whereas with the nursing, they all have one start date, so there's great big lumps. They all start and end at the same time, so those numbers are really different.
I promise you in October, those numbers won't be that high for nursing because those classes will have started.
Okay, thank you.
That's good
Let me
perspective.
just add one other thing is that, at least from the standpoint of working with the high school, these don't count the people that are coming at older adults, but the high school level, I think that our community colleges are really trying to do a good job of getting in. I know in Knoxville, Patrick Wade does a good job of getting into these high schools and really talking to them about what these opportunities are. So much focus sometimes is on the four-year institutions, and just making sure, the only way we're going to meet these 55 dream is to get people at these other institutions, community colleges and others. So I feel like that the technical colleges are trying to really do a good job of presenting other alternatives for students that might not be four-year college students. So helping them decide that and see what those career paths are.
We have started a leadership class. We started in April. One of the projects that there are 13 people in the program. 7 of those people will be working on a marketing plan to do very similar, to talk about other options and programs, and hopefully be able to take it statewide, again, just to get the information out to both high school students as well as adult students coming back to school, to let them know.
This is a great discussion. I want to be mindful of our time. No, that's okay. This is good. This is why we're here, but I do want to be mindful of everyone's time. Regent Humphrey, final comment for Carol.
One last question. For students that have the ability to possibly relocate or even commute to another campus, is there a mechanism for encouraging them to maybe explore opportunities at other campuses that maybe have those shorter wait times?
Our student services folks do a wonderful job talking across the state and will certainly help direct students. If there's an opening at Harriman and maybe there isn't one in Knoxville, they'll work together as best they can to help the students.
Anyone else? Well done. Thank you, Dr. Prieur. All right, Vice Chancellor Gregory.
All right, Madam Chair, I am mindful of time. A tip of the cap to Vice Chancellor Thompson. This is a good process that we're going through. It really is. It kind of keeps things top of the mind. I, both love and hate when she sends an email and says it's time, because it really, refocuses you back on what it is that we're doing, which is 43,202 credentials, 2025. And so everything needs to flow back out of that. I'm going to be very brief, but Regent Varlin's committee yesterday received a very detailed report on the TCAT master plan. That plan has been a long time in its evolution. All of the campuses have been visited, not just the directors, but also that they have industry councils on each one of our campuses, so they have been met with. Data has been collected. The survey of the conditions of the facilities, the size and footprint of the buildings, how they're using their programs, and those kind of things. All of that data has been collected and is coming together. Now, we still have some bumps there that we haven't quite completely worked out. We're still working through a little bit on dual enrollment. We talked a little bit yesterday about our diesel program. So there's pieces of information that we don't all feel quite perfect about yet. But that piece is coming together, and the capacity, the master plan will help support this capacity initiative so that we deploy the kinds of space, when space is the issue. Space is not always the issue, but when space is the issue, that this master plan helps to inform that. So that's how the master plan will help support this issue. You have asked really good questions this morning about the wait list, and Carol wouldn't tell you this, but it's still a work in progress. We have 2 reports on it, okay? This is the second report you're seeing. So when you ask us those things, Regent Grissom, those are kind of things we'll take note of and make sure that as we perfect this tool, and that's what it will be going forward, it'll be something you can kind of see and watch and evolve. We'll take those things in note as we develop this tool, but it's still a bit of a work in progress. So with that, Madam Chairman, should be the wrap-up. Questions?
Any questions for David? That was a good presentation on the master plan yesterday, so thank you. Yep, thank you, Regent Varlin. Is that it? Thank you. All right, our updates on 2 aspects of our priorities, so that was very helpful. More on business process modeling and our TCAT capacities in the future. Thank you very much. Right now, we will then move to the reports from our presidents and directors. I believe we're starting with our TCATs today, and kind of keeping with the theme of our last discussion and our Outstanding Student of the Year Award. I also understand that we'll be talking a little bit this morning about entrepreneurship, jobs, and the Tennessee economy. And this is something I had the chance about a week ago now to hear Regent Markham speak at an event on the family company that her father started and that she and her husband have grown and tended to so well. And Regent Markham said that night, Emily, maybe we should focus on entrepreneurship at one of our meetings. And lo and behold, here we are. So we'll be receiving some additional information on that from both our community colleges and our four-year schools this morning. But I believe there he is, Brad White, waiting in the wings. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I thought maybe y'all heard enough about TCATs to let me come first. Vice Chairman Reynolds, Chancellor Morgan, Regents, I'd first like to thank Dr. Glover and her faculty and staff. The food was excellent, the hospitality, the entertainment. I've never been on this campus before, so I was a little unsure where to go and how to get. And the guards at the stations were the most helpful people I've ever been around. And so I just wanted to make sure you give them my thanks that they got me pointed in the right direction because I needed it. But the hospitality, but you did scare me, Dr. Glover, when you mentioned English 101. I was having flashbacks, and I didn't know if I'd be able to make the rest of the meeting or not. This will be my last report to the board. Mr. King told me yesterday it would probably be my best report. My 2 years as chairman of the directors is ending at the end of this month, and it's only taken me 3 years to complete that 2-year term, which is a little reminiscent of my college days. I'd like to give you a couple items before I introduce our main speaker. A couple things that's happened. TCAT Shelbyville, Steve Mallard, who's the lead CIT instructor, him and some of his colleagues spoke at the MTSU Cyber Summit on May 6th. The summit was sponsored by the Department of Justice. Steve and his group sponsored a Capture the Flag competition. After the event, many organizations have contacted TCAT Shelbyville for advanced security training, along with some partnerships and internships. 3 utility companies, a major healthcare provider, a military contractor, 4 private organizations for some advanced training on this cybersecurity. So we want to congratulate Ivan at Shelbyville. I know he was the backbone in that, and congratulate Steve for his work. The next thing I'd like to mention quickly is next week is a big week for us. Skills USA, Kansas City. Just give you a quick rundown. Our post-secondary delegation, 225 people. Contestants, 96. Voting delegates, 26. National officer and an officer candidate. We have advisors, a few TCAT administrators going, business and industry guests, and the board president. And that leads into, right after this meeting, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Services, Shelley Travis, will be getting on a flight, heading to Kansas City. Even though it starts on Monday, she's got to be there early Saturday morning to make sure everything's underway. She's done an outstanding job with our skills and keeping our students and faculty informed. And with that, I would like to invite her up to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White. Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, Chancellor, and members of the Board of Regents, and our guests. Each year, the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology select an Outstanding Student of the Year to serve as an ambassador for technical education across the state of Tennessee. Outstanding students from every TCAT are selected to represent their campuses in competition based on their personal achievements, leadership skills, and their positive impact on their fellow students, their colleges, and their surrounding communities. These students go through an extensive nomination, interview, and speech process at the local, regional, and state levels of the competition. And I'd like to pause for just a moment and thank our board for your support of this program. Many of you have served as judges, and I know that it is one of the hardest decisions that you have to make each year. Our students tell our story the best, and this program is another way of bringing awareness to the value of technical education. Local, regional, and state winners all have the opportunity to speak at professional, community, and legislative events throughout the year. We hope that through the Outstanding Student of the Year program that we will continue to show how the quality of life can be improved for not only our students, but their families through their TCAT education. Please see the TCAT quarterly newsletter highlighting the 9 regional finalists, including this year's winner, Ms. Carly Zimmerman. In addition to the honor of being named Outstanding Student of the Year, our winner this year received a 2014 Chevy Spark, which was made possible through the generous donations of our TCAT directors, Wynn Incorporated, Amatral, and Freeland Chevrolet in Nashville. Carly Zimmerman, our 2014 Outstanding Student of the Year, grabbed the attention of our judges from the minute she began her speech. She entered the medical assistant program with an eagerness to learn and the foresight to know where she wanted to go with her technical education. She has been goal-oriented from day one and continues to seek additional avenues such as Skills USA and a summer internship to improve her skills as a healthcare professional. Carly has a phenomenal life story that is nothing short of miraculous. More determined than ever, she knows that her decision to attend the TCAT at Chattanooga was one that was well made. It is now my pleasure to invite Carly to come forward to give her award-winning speech. Carly?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Shelley, for that introduction. You're not supposed to make me cry before I do the speech because then that makes it even worse. So I am just going to do the speech that awarded me that car and this tremendous honor of being Tennessee's Outstanding Student of the Year to represent all the TCAT colleges. So, hello, my name is Carly Zimmerman. I'm 33 years old and currently enrolled in the medical assisting program at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology at Chattanooga, also known as TCAT. I'm honored to be with you today, excited to tell you a little bit about what brought me here and exactly what technical education means to me. In 2003, I graduated from Chattanooga State with my degree of applied science. At this time in my life, I had no sense of direction or passion, so I did nothing with that degree. Over the years, I maintained jobs in the restaurant industry, and although I enjoyed them immensely, I just knew that this was not the path that I wished for my life to follow. In January of 2011, after an amazing pregnancy, I headed to the hospital to give birth to my daughter. Due to some severe medical complications, I went into respiratory and cardiac arrest. I was without a heartbeat for 14 minutes, and they had to shock me 5 times. In the normal case, medical staff stops working on a person after 10 minutes and pronounces them dead. So why they continue to work on me that day is something I will never understand, but I will forever be grateful for. After I regained a heartbeat, they got my daughter out through an emergency C-section. I was diagnosed with a severe brain injury, and life would never be the same. Through tears and prayers of both my family and friends, Mackenzie and I were saved that day. After a 10-day stay in the hospital, we headed home, and I would begin the long road to recovery. Life was frustrating and at times unmanageable. I didn't know where anything in my house was. I wasn't that same fun and outgoing person that I once remembered. And above all else, I didn't even know my baby. I had zero recollection of giving birth to her, and that is a memory that I will never regain. I went through periods of anger and denial, and then I fell into a deep depression. When the world labels you, it's easy to just sit by quietly and simply act that part. I was the girl with the brain injury, and I was content to just watch life pass me by. Have you ever just said to yourself, this can't be all there is, right? Life has to be more than this. I have to be more than this. Well, I began to say those very things to myself, and I remember driving down the street and seeing a sign for Chattanooga State. I decided that day to drive on over to the college. When I was introduced to all the programs that technology had to offer, that it was affordable, and that I could gain my degree in a year, well, these were all definite signs that this is something I could and would do. Having dealt with a serious medical issue myself and being touched by so many people in the profession, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in healthcare. My goal is to one day become a registered nurse and work in a pediatric oncology unit. In May of 2013, I was invited to be the guest speaker at the American Heart Association's annual Go Red for Women luncheon. When approached with this, that nagging voice in the back of my head was saying, "You can't do this, Carly. You're the girl with the brain injury, and what could you possibly have to say?" Well, through a lot of practice and tons of support, I stepped out onto the stage that day and gave my speech to a crowd of over 500 people. Was I nervous? Yes. Did I make mistakes? Yes. But did I do it? Yes. And most importantly, did I make an impact? And the answer to that question is yes. That day, my life changed. I began to believe in myself again. I had a sense of empowerment unlike anything I had ever experienced before. What a joy it was to have a voice again. In August of last year, when classes started, all my fears resurfaced. I had fleeting thoughts of failure, and I almost backed out. I'm thrilled to say that that first day was the beginning of the rest of my life. I've become a leader in and out of the classroom. I'm the president of my class, a member of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and Skills USA. One of the many things that I love about technical education is the opportunity of hands-on learning. It's so amazing to study something in a book one day and then actually get to put it into practice. I'm a student, a single mother, and I have overcome a major medical diagnosis. If my story can drive others to push through adversity and pursue their dreams, that's amazing. Technical education has offered me and given me the greatest gift. A hole in my life is being filled. I have found that sense of direction that I've been searching for, and my passion has been driven to the fullest. I'm excited to see what the future holds, and now the possibilities are endless. Thank you.
Thank you. My goodness. How is Mackenzie?
She is amazing, runs me ragged, so smart. And I think that was one of the biggest worries that I had is when I was without oxygen for 14 minutes, then she was as well. And being something that was out of my control, if something would have happened to her mentally or incapacitated her in some way, I think I would have forever blamed myself for that. And she is ready to go to college tomorrow if I'd let her.
That's great. Only if she stays in the TBR system, right?
Okay. Exactly. And she was very proud to claim those keys that night.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
Thank
we
you
are
for
so
giving-
excited for you. You are a great credit to our system, and we thank you for being a part of our TBR family.
Thank you for this program and for what it shows to students. I know that the people that I competed with are just as phenomenal, and everybody's story is worth hearing, and I just am honored that I get to represent it in this fashion.
Thank you, Carly.
So,
we
thank
appreciate you.
so
And go
much.
Skills USA. Okay.
And I do not wish to follow that because our students do tell our story the best. So with that, Vice Chair Reynolds, this concludes the director's report. Do you have any questions?
Questions, anyone? No?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shelley. Safe travels. So, well done. And to Brad White, thank you for your service here as our chairman representing our TCAT. So it's always a pleasure to see you and hear from you. Dr. Catanzaro, to introduce our two-year college program this morning.
Well, good morning, Chairman Reynolds.
Good morning.
And Chancellor Morgan and distinguished members of the Board of Regents. What a joy to be with you, and what a joy to hear her. Pretty tough to follow Ollie, and now about that? Carly. It rhymes. Carly's pretty wonderful. We love having the TCAT as part of Chattanooga State, as a division of Chattanooga State, and we love seeing students like this who come from such difficult backgrounds and just excel. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, because that's the major theme across American higher education. I just came from a meeting in Washington, D.C. that had at present representatives of major industries in the country and a lot of higher education executives, leaders, and entrepreneurship. That was the word that was spoken time and time again. So when we ask ourselves, what do we mean by it in a community college? And all of our community colleges are entrepreneurial. That's the nature of community colleges over the 100-year history of the community colleges of America. Well, we strive to be bold, we strive to be perseverant, resourceful, but most of all, we strive really to take advantage of opportunities that come our way. We all exist in communities. We're all part of communities. And each of those communities has its distinctives and has its opportunities. So what do? We seize those opportunities and we become catalysts for then community development. Well, this is an imperative that we take, at least at Chattanooga State, and I know we do in all of the community colleges across the state, all 13 community colleges. And if you look at something here, it's pretty exciting. The numbers of graduates needed to close this gap, by the way, from 32%, and this has been referred to many times here. It's going to take some real entrepreneurial efforts. I think we all know that, and we all say these same words, business as usual. Well, we can't do business as usual. We've got to do something quite different. And so that's when we turn to entrepreneurship. And our nation needs it, not just our communities, not just our state. If you look at this wonderful quote from Jeff Clifton, president of Gallup, a longtime friend of mine, but I saw this quote recently in a national publication, and it's pretty threatening, pretty daunting. There are more failures now in American startups than there are successes, and that really is a trend downward from 2008, when we were just moving at a very rapid rate upward. And it isn't just a factor of an aging population or a factor of lack of venture capital. It's also a responsibility of ours that we haven't perhaps addressed in the higher education space. So we do this in different ways. We really go at it by doing something that hopefully will change these numbers, by developing young people who can be more than just employees in a company, but start their own businesses, run their own businesses successfully. That's never been a focus, really, in higher education, but it's got to be our focus now, and certainly is our growing focus in the community colleges of Tennessee. Now, how does this focus translate into the development of our colleges and their students? Well, it's seizing new and unconventional opportunities. It's doing what Nashville State has done when Nashville State saw the opportunity to take over a good portion of the Hickory Hollow Mall that had lost its anchor stores. Now, normally, I'd have a great speaker here, a person you well know, Dr. George Van Allen, and he would lead us into this, but no, George is off, and he's sent someone else in his place. Wonderful district councilwoman. Her name is Jacoby Dowell, and she represents District 32, and I'm going to have her come forward and introduce this video that was prepared by the Nashville State Community College. So, Councilwoman Dowell.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jacobia Dow, as he stated, and I am honored to be with you this morning. I'm always excited to come on the campus of Tennessee State University for some reason. Although I'm a UT alum, my blood does bleed orange, but I think my spirit is blue, and that's a good thing because I love Tennessee State University. So, and Dr. Glover didn't tell me to say that, but I do. I just get excited being here. But more than anything, I'm excited to share the video that we're going to present to you today. As a councilwoman out in the southeast area, just to put in context, because they told me I had 45 seconds, our community was in suburban decline. And the collaboration between the Tennessee Board of Regents, the state, and our local government has been one that has been tremendously successful. I don't think words can put into context what it has meant for the people in the community and what it has meant for that southeast Davidson County area. A couple of things I want to point out is that education is an economic driver. Since the addition of the Nashville State Southeast campus in our community, we've had a tremendous amount of interest in business. And I think when you look back over the years at what was a turning point that took our community from stage one declining to a vibrant community again, it will be the decision that you made and that we made to put a Southeast campus in our area. The second byproduct of the campus has also been accessibility to so many students out in that southeast area. Just to put that in context, southeast Davidson County is the fastest growing area of Nashville, Tennessee. And while accessibility education for some is a matter of just transit getting into town, the college campus has presented a tremendous opportunity for those to basically have access to education right there within the community. So that's been a success. The video that you're going to see goes over a little bit of that. But I invite you to come out and see the campus and, to express that I appreciate the campus being there. I look forward to growing this relationship and growing the campus and the location, and that as we continue on, that I hope, as we make decisions about education in our city, that we look at the importance of education, not just for, educating students for the future, but also the other effects that it has on a community, the social impact that it has on a community, and that's what it's brought to our area. So I guess we'll lead on into the video, and if there are any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to entertain those.
Miss Carol's working her magic here, I know. Take your time, we're good.
To decline. We saw JCPenney's leave out the mall, and subsequently we saw other stores leave. And so around the time that Nashville State started looking at the area, we had a huge 1.1 million square feet of pretty much empty real estate that sat in a key part of our community right on Bell Road. So seeing this real estate set empty was very sad. It was a very emotional thing for a lot of people in the community who have lived out in this area for a very long time, made a lot of memories here, and so it wasn't a day that went by that someone didn't mention, look over there, isn't it sad, isn't it dismal? The community rallied around having Nashville State Community College come to our community. It was a joint effort, not just among our political leaders at the time, but our state leaders, and also just everyday community advocates. They got out and they talked to other people in the community, and they said, we've got to attract a community college to our area. We have so many students, the opportunity is there, and this will be a win-win, not just for the school, but for our students and for the communities.
This is truly the first step on a journey that we're going to go on together over the next couple of years of bringing this area back. We've done investments in schools, we've done investments in fire departments, now we're doing investments in Nashville State, we're doing investments in libraries, we're doing investments in parks, and the community leadership is standing up, and this place will be totally different. It will be better, and the credit will go to y'all. let me say this is a big day for Nashville State. Nashville State has been an excellent citizen of Nashville, a major part of the city's success, and it's a major part of our city's future. And this is a big step, opening up a facility here in the southeastern portion of the county, offering more services to more people who need them, and giving more young people the opportunity to succeed in life. I can't think of anything better.
Well, my predictions, I think, were accurate. It's really exceeded my expectations. You know, we started out with a mall that was virtually empty in an area that needed attention. And we also had high school students and others who lived in the southeastern part of our county and in counties to the south of us who didn't have ready access to community college. So when Nashville State went into the mall area, it was a great shot in the arm for education, a great shot in the arm for the local economy.
Nashville State has been a definite economic driver in our community. Each time I attend, like the Metro Chamber South meeting, the businesses talk about one of the biggest attractions to moving into a community is having employable people. They need a workforce, and they need a talented workforce. And so when we look at the companies that have moved to our area, they look at Nashville State as being the vehicle to provide them with that workforce. More companies moved to the southeast area than anywhere else in the county over the last couple of years, and we continue to see a tremendous amount of interest from other businesses who are looking to relocate to Nashville. So it's definitely been a driver for attracting companies and attracting people. There's a sense of belonging back to the community. So when you think about it, you know, I go back to a mall being more than just a place to shop, but it's basically a gathering point for people in the community. It's where people experience community. It's where people go and they meet their neighbors and they talk. And I think the campus has brought that sense of community back to the area.
At the Southeast campus, I am able to actually get relationships. I'm able to see these people every day and they're part of my community. I'm near my home. So say if I did have transportation issues, it's walking distance, which is very convenient. I'm gaining a relationship with all of my professors. I see them every day, and my professors are also part of my community, and it's continuing to grow, which is excellent.
I think that connection is being made with a lot of students, and I see it and I hear it every single day when I'm out in the community. They talk about how excited they are that the campus is here. They talk about they can work and go attend class and go back. They talk about the affordability of attending college and the fact that we have programs that offer dual enrollment and also a pathway program that would allow them to attend a community college and then transfer those credits over to a four-year university for a bachelor's degree. You can't beat that. You absolutely can't beat that.
I would definitely like to see Nashville State expand, and I know they've looked at Dickerson Road and Hermitage. I think those are both great locations. I mean, what ideal to me is going into an area that is underserved in terms of availability of community college, and then doing what Nashville State did so wonderfully out at Hickory Hollow, where they come in and it really changes a neighborhood, recharges it, gives it a lot of energy. I think that could happen in a variety of places, but certainly both the Dickerson and Hermitage location would meet those needs.
Well, pretty wonderful, isn't it? That's really taking advantage of opportunities that come your way, and it really helps, I think, a whole community, as you can see, become revitalized. Now, in the last year, I've virtually never spoken about Chattanooga State, have I? I've introduced other colleges, so I'm going to say a few words about entrepreneurship at Chattanooga State.
You just can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. I have to do it. It's a must. And we just come back from several days with the Gallup organization, and we've developed a wonderful partnership. And here's the idea, and this is something I know that Regent Markham really appreciates, because she is a true entrepreneur and a leader in entrepreneurship in our state. But here's the idea, that we have accelerators and incubators all over the state of Tennessee, and some of them are they're the agent of government, and sometimes they are privately funded. What we're looking to now to develop is something a little different. We're looking to develop not just an incubator or an accelerator that will take advantage of the opportunities that a community has and the people in the community and help them become entrepreneurs. We're talking about becoming a national center for entrepreneurship, bringing people from all over the United States into our community, into our state to start up businesses. And the idea of it is we respond to the challenge when the challenge comes our way. Well, here we have colleges like Chattanooga State that in the summertime have enormous capacity in facilities, capacity in faculty, capacity in students who can be interns or mentors or leaders in the development of companies. We have a lot of equipment and we have a lot of capability, but it's not used to a very high degree in the summertime. So capacity exists. That's extremely important for us to recognize. Now, what can we do with that capacity? How can we become more engaged organizations? Well, that's what we've been looking at over the last several years, and we believe that in the summertime, we can, working with the Gallup organization, we can attract people with a high likelihood of success as entrepreneurs to boot camps at Chattanooga State over the summer. And these boot camps will have as one of their goals helping them launch a business, and launch it not in the town they came from, Denver, Seattle, wherever it may be, but right here in Tennessee. To contribute to our economy, and build, of course, for our community and for our college, a much greater emphasis on small business startup and on entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are not interested in long process of development. They're not interested in getting college degrees, advanced degrees. They want to start a business now. They have to be given the tools to do it. They have to be put in an environment that inspires them to do it and supports them in so doing. That's what we're after. And the outcome ought to please the board from what I've heard, and that is we ourselves are looking not just to have our institution in the future supported by the state of Tennessee, not just to be supported by tuition dollars, but by alternative funding. So let me make this bold projection. We're going to launch this in 2015, the summer of 2015. And I certainly expect, I'm looking at a couple of my people here, that by the end of the summer of 2018, we will have gained a profit of at least $1 million a year to help drive our institution to excellence. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Any questions? I know the councilwoman is here still, and perhaps she could
Questions,
answer a question.
comments? No, we very much appreciate Councilwoman Dowell joining us and her strong support for our anchor there in the community, which is very exciting to see that Nashville State branding at Hickory Hollow. So it's a great addition. So I know her time is valuable and her schedule's busy, so we are grateful. And Dr. Catt, you always have something up your sleeve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Everybody good? Dr. Oldham, I think once again you're going to focus a little today on entrepreneurship, jobs, and our Tennessee economy.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds and members of the board and Chancellor. It's a pleasure as always to be in front of you and to talk about how the universities are playing a role in some of these activities. We know, and it's no surprise to anybody here, that approximately 2/3 of the new jobs, net new jobs created annually in the United States come from small businesses. What's probably a little known fact is that most of those actually, small businesses are actually also, that are creating jobs, are also startups. Most of the new job growth is from companies that are within the first 5 years of their existence. And so this is a vitally important opportunity for us, obviously. Also, something that may not be obvious to the board is that even though with our Drive to 55, and we all know we're very supportive of that Tennessee, I think, still remains as a net exporter of educated talent. And so we have tremendous opportunities to keep more of that talent in state by creating additional job opportunities for them. And those of you that travel know that there are many examples around the country, whether it's Research Triangle Park or Silicon Valley or other places, Austin, Texas, where universities have played a very important role in creating job opportunities, and whole industries have grown from that. And that's certainly what we believe is possible here. We wanted to highlight just very briefly for you this morning examples across the state of Tennessee of your universities, how we're playing a role in job creation. And we do that in multiple ways. We do that not only with working with existing industry by helping them be more productive and add jobs in place and stay put where they are. We also obviously work with state and local entities in recruiting new companies to the state. But fundamentally, probably our greatest opportunity is through working with our students and faculty to really create the kind of ideas that lead to new business opportunities and new startups. As has been mentioned, the success rate of startup companies is relatively low. And so that means that we've got to create a lot of good ideas to have the kind of success that we all want to see. And that's really where universities can play the biggest role, we believe. So what I'm going to do, we're going to highlight three. We're going to highlight the University of Memphis, and I'm going to ask President Rudd to come up and walk us through a little bit of what Memphis is doing, and then President Nolan will follow him, and then I'll finish up with a few comments from Tennessee Tech.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it. Let me talk to you a little bit about what we're doing at the University of Memphis. I would tell you we've got quite a bit of exciting entrepreneurial activity. If you want to take a look at the first slide, this last year we opened the Crew Center for Entrepreneurship. It was a result of a just remarkably generous gift by Hilliard Cruz. What that allowed us to do was to centralize our entrepreneurship activity into one resource. And as a result of that, coordinate it, drive it across campus, I think in a more meaningful way. And we've been able to expand. The hope was to expand beyond just business and engineering, where traditionally we have the majority of our activity. We've already seen that. We have expansion into fine arts. We have expansion into nursing. And we also have been able to provide the resources necessary to support our students. I would share with you, we don't have it on the slide, but it's really a wonderful story. One of our students, Zach Harrison, in the first 6 months of the Crew Center, actually made the national finals in the collegiate entrepreneurship competition. He created a recruiting software that actually helps high school students coordinate with colleges when they have an interest in NCAA athletics. It really is remarkable. If you haven't seen it, I can send you a link so you can take a look at it. On the next slide, if you look, we have got an effort in terms of growing our accelerator. And we've had good involvement. Probably the most exciting piece about the accelerator is that we have great mentorship opportunities across the community. It's been a chance for us to connect with the community in Memphis. We have a wealth of entrepreneurship expertise in Memphis, and this has served multiple purposes, not only in driving some of the mentorship and expertise to our students, but driving better relationships with the community in Memphis, and we're quite excited. You'll also see this coming year we're launching a new effort in terms of accelerator growth in the FedEx Institute in cooperation with the Crew Center. And I hope to get a chance to be back to talk with you later about that. Some good activity, I think some great outcomes, and as you see on the slide there, the majority is being held by the students, owned by the students, and driven by the students. If you get a chance, if you're in Memphis, come by and see the Crew Center. It is a unique building, a unique opportunity, and really I think exemplifies what we expect in entrepreneurship. Thanks for this chance to chat with you for a few minutes.
Thank you. Questions, comments for Dr. Rudd before I hurries back to his seat? That's all right. We're just so glad to see you, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to answer any questions you have.
I'd just like to welcome President Rudd and look forward to working with you, and very encouraged by everything you've been doing at the school since you've arrive there, and look forward to being with you more. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to the opportunity to share more time with you. Absolutely.
Commissioner Johnson.
Memphis Bioworks, are you coordinating with them in any way?
Well, we are. As a matter of fact, I was with Steve Bears just 2 days ago. We are in the process, when I had mentioned the FedEx Institute in launching a broader-based accelerator, we actually are in the process of developing with Bioworks a biologistics accelerator that we hope to launch in the fall. It will be very broad-based. It'll be not just the University of Memphis and Bioworks, but will cut across multiple entities in the community and actually an external national partner. I'd be happy to talk with you. We hadn't finalized the agreement with the external national partner, but would welcome the chance to come back when this is finalized and share it with you. It is very broad-based. The goals are incredibly ambitious. The goals are in the range of launching 100 companies a year. So something that is very exciting. And Steve and I have worked closely together over the course of the last year.
Thank you. We're
Thank
glad
you.
you're on the team.
Yeah, I am as well. Looking forward to it.
Thank
you.
Dr. Nolan, we haven't seen you yet. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide some examples of the amazing work that occurs every day across your university system. Your universities do more than graduate students. They are actively engaged in research and service that grows our economy and creates new jobs for Tennessee taxpayers. Several years ago, we were approached by business and industry in Bristol with the simple question: how do we increase efficiencies and realize savings for our customers? And that industry was Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services, a utilities provider in Northeast Tennessee. From that question, a group of our students working with our faculty brought together a smart grid technology utilizing fiber optics that were in the region to bring an opportunity for BTS to use smart technology and, for all intensive purposes, increase utilization of the services in off-peak times, thereby monitoring and maintaining smart hot water heaters across the region. That doesn't sound like much, but the savings are significant, and if we were able to roll those savings up across the state, you see the number in front of you, which would be $2 billion in savings for TVA. That's an idea that came from our students. That's an idea that came in partnership with business and industry. And it's an idea that last year received $1 million in SBAR funding to help push that out across the state. But our faculty are also engaged in working with small business and industry to help facilitate the success of small businesses and startups. At East Tennessee State University, through the iLab, we host small businesses. It's a facility that includes companies such as Proteo Bioservices, such as Yazoo, and such as Renewable Algal Energies, which is working to create biofuels from algae. Renewable Algal Energy has received in the past year $3.8 million in SBIR funding. But we're also actively engaged in recruiting new business and industry to East Tennessee. At the Innovation Lab within the past year, we've started a facility and created a home for FW Springs, a German spring manufacturing company that has put $1 million worth of infrastructure in the iLab, and we anticipate that that number will double within the next couple of months. Those are just some very brief examples, and I'm wanting to be brief in the essence of time, of the things that are underway at one institution that's utilizing its research and service to grow business and industry. As I stressed, we do more than produce graduates. We help to produce opportunities for business and industry to grow, thereby ensuring opportunities for those graduates to move into the workforce. I'd welcome the chance to give you all a tour of the iLab or Valley Brook or the other facilities at East Tennessee State University, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Oldham.
Thank you. Well done. Regent Smith, from your perspective, sitting in Northeast Tennessee, any comments on the good work at ETSU?
Well, I'd just like to say that there is some tremendous work going on at ETSU, and you can't say enough about Dr. Nolan's leadership there.
Thank you. Excellent.
Well, as you can tell, that every campus sort of puts this in their own context and puts their own personality on it, and the great things are happening. Tennessee Tech is in a unique environment as well, in a more rural setting, obviously, than some of the other campuses. And also with the engineering background, our strength is in areas of technology, and that's what we would choose to emphasize. As the other campuses also work very closely with local partners, particularly incubators and accelerators. We do likewise. The local accelerator in Cookeville is Biz Foundry. It's actually right across the street from our campus. We work very closely with them and have for the past few years. However, we wanted to go a step further with that and help our students and faculty actually churn a lot more ideas and get to that point where they can be successful quicker. So with that in mind, we're in the process of creating a space within our university library. I think it's going to be called the Hive, which stands for Hybrid Immersive Visualization Environment. And basically what this is it's a way of in virtual space, rapidly prototyping and testing ideas. That's the bottom line. So this facility, this space, will be a very creative space. It will house R&D teams of mixed students and faculty, research faculty as well, developers, designers, innovative graphic artists. The Business Media Center that you saw highlighted earlier this morning with the Ollie the Otter program will have a very significant role in this. So you have undergraduate students, graduate students, faculty, all in a very creative mix to apply virtual reality to technologies and to solve modern day problems in medicine, engineering, communication, conservation, and also in training. The cave, as it would be called, is a very important component in this. It's basically, for those of you that have never seen one, it's about a 10 feet by 10 feet cubicle space that creates a virtual environment in 3 dimensions so that it allows you to visualize in very high definition a lot of complex concepts and complex technologies. Researchers will be able to visualize their data in stereoscopic virtual environment. The lab can simulate and visualize wind currents through cities, blood flow through arteries, and airflow around a car or an airplane. In virtual reality environments, amputees can learn to ski without risking serious injury. Bomb squads can disarm explosive devices with no chance of casualties, and surgeons can make perfect incisions and perform flawless operations before they ever touch a patient. That's the kind of opportunities that this provides. I think the next slide will go to TTU's in collaboration between our College of Business and College of Engineering. They're collaborating on some student-led projects that actually you can think of competitions, sort of like Shark Tank on television, where students actually compete and they combine ideas, generally speaking, technology from the College of Engineering with a team of business students to put a business plan to that and see what could have commercial significance and opportunities. And that's proving to be very successful and very encouraging to students that they begin to think about how they can create opportunities. A motto that we're beginning to adopt on campus a lot is this sounds funny to start with, we want to graduate fewer students that need a job and more students that are creating jobs. So our message to a lot of our students is don't wait for that perfect job, make it for yourself and create that opportunity. This involves students of all levels, obviously not only in virtual space, but also 3D printers gives you great opportunities now to prototype devices very rapidly and test them out. And we have a number of those on campus at this point in time. Let me just go to the last slide, I think. Is that the last one? 'Cause I think, yeah. One thing that just happened actually this week, Tennessee Tech was one of 2 Tennessee universities to be an original signer on the president out of the White House, the Makers Fair. It was highlighted earlier this week. It's highlighting the National Day of Making. It's a national effort now. I think about 150 universities have signed on to this that really is to highlight creativity and how that we need to be about making something and creating value. And so the highlights for Tennessee Tech, as shown on the slide here, about one mechanical engineering student, Anthony Taylor, created a Newton car. It's a cart that's used in teaching applications for physics using a 3D printer, and actually did a streaming video this week showing how he would create that. It's also involved the Governor's School for Emerging Technologies, teaching even high school students to design and assemble engines, and so to find their own way of creating value. Again, I think in conclusion, you see how all the universities are using their own assets and their own local identities to help create these kinds of opportunities around the state, and hopefully we'll be able to keep more of these students at home, continuing to create jobs for Tennesseans well in the future. Thank you very much, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Well
you might
done.
have.
Any questions or comments?
I wonder, Mr. Vice Chairman, if there is support that this body should be given to these respective schools that we hadn't thought of and that they've been reluctant to tell us. Is there any type of support, even not money support, but other kinds of support? Of course, money's included.
Sure. Money's always helpful. I would say just a recognition that this is a mission for us. It's a role that we need to be playing, and that our role goes well beyond just graduating students, but it's also creating value in multiple ways. This is a very dynamic area that we're playing in now. It's the rules continue to change because the technologies change and because the opportunities move. And so, for the board to understand that kind of context will be very helpful to us, I think, going forward.
Yeah, in our industry, Vice Chairman, our knowledge is doubling every 8 months, and that's a not very sophisticated industry as people think about it, construction. And so if you just do it the way you did last year, you're penalizing all of your clients because you have old technology or old methodologies, and you're not using some of the latest creations as been talked about by the various presidents. So I think he's probably right. We need to be generating some way that we can encourage our universities to actually step out and be innovative and figure out what the new best practices are, because the ones we used 2 years ago are no longer the best practices.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you, Dr. Oldham, to everyone. Great presentations. Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, Regent Ferris.
I think it'd be good for us to get information from the universities and the community colleges in terms of what sort of private dollars they're raising on the foundations. I spoke with Commissioner Johnson before the meeting, and as we have fewer and fewer state dollars, we're going to have to think of other ways to pay for things. And so I think we need to have a greater focus on raising private dollars. And I know the presidents are very busy about trying to do that, but I think getting some periodic information, I know we get the awards presentations of anecdotal information, but if we could get some more information on just how that's going, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Well done. It does remind me again of Bill Swain's words that of education being key to our future. We saw it today in these presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. And just as a reminder, too, all of us do have our highlights documents, our newsletters from our TCATs and our community colleges and our four-year universities, too, to take home and read further all the great things going on our campuses. We do not have any unfinished business on our agenda today, but we do have some new business items, and I appreciate everybody's patience and persistence here as we move through these important items. The first, of course, is the report from our Finance and Business Operations Committee meeting yesterday that does include the approval of tuition and maintenance fees and the approval of funding and operations for this next fiscal year. Regent Ferris, I believe you'll present that for us.
Thank you, Chairman Reynolds. As part of yesterday's Finance and Business Operations Committee meeting, we considered approval of tuition and maintenance fees for the 2014-2015 fiscal year. We had a number of meetings, over the course of about 6 months. We had a lot of conversation about this yesterday. I'm not going to repeat everything that I said yesterday, but I do think that we need to have really a full examination of our operations. I think it's naive to think that we're going to continue to get a huge sum of money from the state of Tennessee to pay for the functions of the system. And so we're going to have to think of other alternatives, including costs, as part of the equation to reduce the impact on Tennessee families when it comes to tuition. And I'm not going to repeat all that, but I don't think we can continue to say that the state needs to be giving us more money. I'm going to continue to advocate for that. I hope they do, but I don't expect it. And I think our staff needs to come up with other alternatives to address this growing problem. So before I give my report, I'd like to call on Chancellor Morgan for any comments he has.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Regent Ferris. I think it is fair to say that none of us enjoy bringing you recommendations to increase tuition and fees. Back in the fall last year, THEC, as they do every year, had recommended tuition increases for the coming academic year. Those increases had been recommended at between 2% and 4%. And I think it's fair to say that when those recommendations were made, Vice Chancellor Sims and I both anticipated, actually with great anticipation, looked forward to bringing a recommendation to you at this time of year that would be well within THEC's range, possibly even under the range that THEC had suggested. But that suggestion was predicated, as you note, Regent Ferris, was predicated on the state funding the outcomes as envisioned under the outcome-based formula. The state was not able to do that. I don't think it was because people didn't want to. I think it was because the reality of our state financial situation was such that they couldn't. So what would have been somewhere between 2% and 4%, perhaps less, has now turned into a significantly higher number. You may recall a few weeks ago, but maybe at the last meeting or so, I shared with you correspondence that I had sent to the governor based on a conversation that we have had, and we have continued to talk about the need for us as a state to really have an opportunity to strategically look at how we're going to finance the higher education aspirations that we have so clearly understood is necessary to the future of our state. The Complete College Act, the Drive to 55, I think clearly makes a case and makes a compelling case that if Tennessee is to prosper, we're going to have to become a better educated workforce. We're going to have to be in a position to meet the needs of business and industry as those needs exist today and as those needs will exist tomorrow. There are basically 4 ways to finance the activity that we undertake. There's tuition that we ask students to pay or ask people to pay on behalf of students. There's state appropriations. There is private fundraising, as you note, and we will be bringing to you on a recurring basis information about how well we're doing at our institutions in terms of raising money. But then a 4th component that is a critical component is efficiency, is finding ways to do the business we do less expensively and in a more productive fashion. Those 4 things are the universe of resources that we have. What the right mix of those resources are really needs to be carefully thought. What is realistic in terms of looking forward to tuition policy, not just on an ad hoc basis, and one of our difficulties is that we come to you each year really as a year unto itself, with no discussion about what is out there, what is the 3 to 5 to 7 to 10-year horizon in terms of our financial planning to deliver what the state so critically needs us to be able to deliver. So we hear the concern, we share the concern, we share the frustration. I think, as I noted yesterday, there is perhaps a window of opportunity to partner with the University of Tennessee system, with their board and this board and others who are so inclined across the state, to really try to elevate this conversation to a place where we can get some degree of reasonable certainty about what that future looks like. How much of the need should we be able to meet by achieving efficiencies and being more productive? What should the state contribution be expected to be? What should we ask students and families and other funders to provide? And then how can we maximize our ability to raise money from private sources? So I appreciate the difficulty of this decision as it relates to tuition and fees. But in the process that we undertook this fall, we met with every university, every community college, and went into quite a bit of detail about the process they use to develop their budget and their budget recommendations. I think it's fair to say, Dale can speak for himself, but I think we came out of that process believing that folks are trying very hard to look at resource allocation decisions, to repurpose dollars where they can, to focus on things that matter in terms of meeting the needs of the state, and those needs being based primarily on student success. So I feel good that our institutions are doing a good job of finding ways to be as productive and as efficient and as effective as they can be, but that's a never-ending process. So we'll continue to do that and hope to be able to find ways to be clearer with you as board members about that process and about the things that are going on, that have gone on in our institutions, to try to achieve the maximum output with the minimum resources. So thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Morgan. And I guess this is really, I don't know if we're approving the minutes or approving my report, but these are really just approval of the minutes. But this is what the committee recommends to the full board as part of the minutes. For universities, the maintenance fee adjustments vary among institutions based upon institutional need. At Austin P, it's 5.3%, ETSU 7%, MTSU 5%, TSU 5.9%, Tennessee Tech 6%, University of Memphis 0%. Community colleges, recommendations from the committee are intended to increase maintenance fee and tuition revenues by a combined 6%. Colleges of applied technology, recommendations are intended to increase maintenance fees by a combined 8.5%. Professional schools, University of Memphis Law School, there's no increase. East Tennessee State University College of Medicine, a 2% increase. East Tennessee State University Pharmacy School, a 3% increase. And as further part of my report, we also considered a recommendation to approve funding for the operations for fiscal year 2013-14 and 2014-15. As part of the committee's report, you've been provided with the operating budget for the system totaling $2.91 billion for fiscal year 2013-14 and $2.82 billion for fiscal year 2014-15, which were recommended for approval at yesterday's committee meeting. This budget is based upon the level of state funds recommended and Governor Haslam's proposed budget, as well as early estimates of factors such as enrollment growth, research activities, and availability of federal funds. The full effect of the approved fee increases and any enrollment changes will be included in the October revised budget that the board will receive. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report, the minutes of the June 19, 2014 meeting of the Committee on Finance and Business Operations, which includes the consent agenda items, tuition and maintenance fee recommendations for 2014-15, and the operating budgets for fiscal years 2013-14 and 2014-15 as presented. That's my motion.
A second.
Thank you. Second from Regent Griscom. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. And thank you for your good comments, Chancellor. That was helpful perspective. Hearing no further discussion, Madam Secretary, this requires a roll call vote.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Ferris.
Aye.
Regent Freeman.
Aye.
Regent Griscom.
Aye.
Regent Humphrey.
Aye.
Regent Johnson.
Aye.
Regent Kisber.
Aye.
Regent Markham. Aye. Regent Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Smith.
Aye.
Regent Stites.
Aye.
Regent Thomas.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Wallace. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time and effort and diligence through this process. We know these decisions are never easy. As Regent Markham said to me last night, we've continued an important dialogue, and Chairman Ferris, thank you for your leadership on our Finance Committee. So thank you all. Moving along, we now have Regent Roddy with his report of the Personnel and Compensation Committee meeting, also from yesterday, that includes faculty promotional increases and approval of the institutional compensation plan recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The Personnel and Compensation Committee met yesterday afternoon in regular session to review faculty promotion increases and the institutional request for new and amended compensation plans. Additionally, I would just mention that we had a very full consent agenda. Approval of President Emeritus contracts, academic tenure for universities, definition of faculty, faculty appointments at universities, faculty promotion at universities, faculty appointments at community colleges, days of administrative closing. And as chair of the committee, I move that the board approve the report of the June 19th meeting of the Committee on Personnel and Compensation. This report, as I indicated, includes the consent agenda items, institutional requests for new and amended compensation plans, and the faculty promotional increases as presented.
You've heard the committee recommendation. We will need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Regent Thomas. Any further discussion?
Approval of this report requires a roll call vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Ferris.
Aye.
Regent Freeman.
Aye.
Regent Griscom.
Aye.
Regent Humphrey.
Aye.
Regent Johnson.
Aye.
Regent Kisber.
Aye.
Regent Markham. Aye. Regent Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Smith. Regent Stites.
Aye.
Regent Thomas.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Wallace. Motion passes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Regent Roddy, for your leadership as well. On the 3rd of June, we met in our ad hoc committee on committees, and as all of you know, our chairs of our standing committees, we've been looking at the charters of those committees over the course of the last few months, really to make sure we're aligned to Tennessee Promise, the Drive to 55, all of the important initiatives we have going on around higher education in our system. So we've had some great, lengthy and robust and productive discussions. At the June 3rd meeting, we talked about rolling the responsibilities of what has been an ad hoc committee on capital outlay and capital maintenance back to the Committee on Finance and Business Operations. We also talked about adding compliance to the Audit Committee responsibilities, renaming the current Committee on Business, Community, and Public Affairs, and then how we better combine workforce and development initiatives, Regent Varlin, with all the good work you have going on with the TCATs. So at this point in time, we are still dropping back, doing a lot of work on those last 3 items that I mentioned, but there was one item that we did decide we were ready to move forward with, and that is once again taking that ad hoc committee on capital outlay and capital maintenance back to finance and business, whereas you look at the bylaws on finance, it seems to be where it resides. I know that historically there had been some reasons around pulling it out, and certainly we will always consult with representatives from the various institutional groups as we begin looking at any methodology changes in capital outlay. We agreed that day to move forward with this idea, subject, of course, to Chairman Ferris's approval. He could not be with us that day, but I did talk with him. He concurs with that decision. So we need to do 2 quick things here, if I understand this correctly. To formally disband the ad hoc committee, we will need a resolution, but prior to that, and this is just a roll call vote, we do need then to approve the minutes from the ad hoc committee meeting on the 3rd of June, and I would appreciate a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Thomas. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And next, Regent Ferris, if you could present the resolution to consolidate that ad hoc committee back to your committee.
Yes, and I'm just going to read this resolution. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Whereas in 1997, the Tennessee Board of Regents determined that it was necessary to periodically revisit the methodology to set capital priorities and make adjustments as might be appropriate to address changing system needs and to identify the needs on each campus. And whereas on September 26, 1997, the Board of Regents adopted a resolution that directed the Vice Chairman of the Board and the Chairman of the Finance and Business Operations Committee to appoint an ad hoc committee to work with the Chancellor and staff of the Board of Regents to review and adjust the methodology for setting capital priorities as necessary. And whereas since that time, the Ad hoc Committee on Capital Outlay and Capital Maintenance has served the Board in that capacity. And whereas after examining all of its committees, the Board has now determined that due to changes in the funding and budget processes at the state and system levels, its Finance and Business Operations Committee should be responsible for reviewing and adjusting the methodology for setting capital priorities in consultation with the Chancellor, staff of the Board of Regents, and the Chief Executive Officers of the system's institutions as appropriate. And now therefore be it resolved that the Ad hoc Committee on Capital Outlay, and Capital Maintenance is hereby disbanded, and the Finance and Business Operations Committee shall, when setting capital priorities and making recommendations to the Board as to the needs for additional buildings and land for campuses and capital maintenance, consult with the Chancellor, staff of the Board of Regents, and the Chief Executive Officers of the system's institutions as appropriate. And I'll move adoption of the resolution.
Thank you, Regent Ferris. We need a second. Second. Thank you, Regent Varlin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this simply requires a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And to all those who have served on the ad hoc committee, both from our system and from the Board of Regents, thank you all. And we'll continue to have a healthy dialogue around capital outlays and capital maintenance going forward. We also, as we continue our ad hoc committee work, Secretary Moody, could you briefly fill us in on some of our notice of proposed changes to our bylaws?
Yes, the bylaws require that if we are going to propose changes to the bylaws, we have to give notice to the board at the preceding meeting, the meeting preceding the meeting at which we expect action. So I'm hereby giving you notice that at your September quarterly meeting, you'll be presented with proposed changes to the bylaws that will add language to clarify that the state and university community college system includes the colleges of applied technology, adds language that would allow a committee to meet in the absence of a quorum to hear information only, and add language that clarifies that in the absence of the chairman of the board, the vice chairman shall be an ex officio voting member of all committees. Those are the three changes that we plan to bring in September.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I just want to say I really appreciate the ad hoc committee work and all the thought that is going into this. I think it's a healthy discussion. I think we will be better aligned over time as a consequence, and particularly with regard to audit and compliance and governance. There are big issues in higher education around all of those issues right now, and it keeps us current and on our toes and thinking through the best thing for our system. Regent Duckett.
Procedurally, I have a question for Mary. If between now and the next meeting additional issues come up regarding potential bylaw changes, would that technically mean we could not address those changes until we have specifically acknowledged what the changes would be, or is there a way for us to provide general knowledge today that we would be reviewing the bylaws for potential changes so that we could keep a time schedule?
If you have today an idea of one that you would like to change, I think we're not bound to make the changes if you announce today that you think you would like to make a change to a particular or of a particular type. As you notice today, we're not talking about specific language, we're just talking about concepts that the language will be brought forward next month. So if there is a bylaw, if something falls within what we've talked about today, we wouldn't need to renotice that. And if there is something, but the bylaws do currently say that if you plan to amend the bylaws, we have to give notice of the proposed change at the previous meeting.
Right, and what I was thinking of is the work that we're currently doing in terms of looking at the role and function of the different committees. And if, for example, the committee that I currently chair, if we were to change its title and some of its functions, is that something we would then have to come back, whether it's public affairs or any other committee?
I think so, just because the bylaws do say we have to give notice, but because that is a topic that you've already talked about in the ad hoc committee on committees, I think it would be safe to say today that you may plan to bring a change relative to the committee, and I can't think of the full name of the committee right now.
Business, Community, and Public Affairs.
The Business, Community, and Public Affairs Committee, that you will be bringing changes to those bylaws. And just because we give notice doesn't mean that you have to do it next month. So,
and that's fine. I'm just trying to create a vehicle that will allow us to move as expeditiously as possible.
Yep. Thank you, Regent Duckett.
So would you like for me to amend my notice to include potential changes to the bylaws pertaining to the committee on?
Yes, I would, based on the previous discussions we've had.
That's perfect. Anyone else? Thank you, Regent Duckett. That's why you're such a good lawyer. Keep us all on the straight and narrow. Thank you. Well, the next three items are somewhat bittersweet. And we begin with a resolution of appreciation for Regent Deanna Wallace, who has served so ably this past year as our faculty representative. Regent Varlin, would you do us the honors?
Yes, I will. And it is my pleasure to present this resolution of appreciation, although I really, really regret her having to go off when she finally knows what's going on. I mean, it takes a year to be able to do that, and we've talked about that several times. But because this is, we don't get to make that decision, I want to present this resolution to you in appreciation for the service of Ms. Deanna Wallace as Faculty Regent for the Tennessee Board of Regents. Whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Ms. Deanna Wallace for her service as Faculty Regent. And whereas she was appointed to this position by the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the State of Tennessee for the 2013-2014 academic year, and whereas she has fulfilled her responsibilities in an exemplary manner by contributing to the governance of the institutions within the purview of the board, by sharing her concerns for the faculty within the board system and for educational quality, and whereas she has provided leadership, guidance, and expertise to the board in the areas of articulation and student life, and has represented her colleagues and students of the TBR system with unwavering and distinguished service. And whereas she has used her experiences to devote considerable time, effort, and perspective as a member of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology Committee. And whereas during her tenure with the board, she unfailingly fulfilled her responsibilities through active participation in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system. And whereas she is an individual of high integrity and wisdom, with sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education, and whereas her tenure has been marked by selfless support of the system and a number of its individual institutions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents system expresses its sincere appreciation to Ms. Deanna Wallace for her dedication and contributions to the board and its institutions, and extend best wishes to her and all of her future pursuits. Yes.
Thank you. We need a second. Thank you. All right. Very good. This requires a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hear, hear. Regent Wallace, your comments.
Well, first of all, I would like to express, I'm sure some of you have probably picked up on it by now, but I'm very passionate for the TCATs and what they do, and I've been very fortunate to be able to be a part of them for the past 16 years. I would like to thank Mr. Powers, my director, for allowing me to serve as an instructor there. It's been a quick year, and it's been a pleasure being a part of the board, but most of all, it's been a learning experience. And I just want to thank all of you for your kindness and making me feel so welcome.
You have honored us with your presence. Thank you. And you know where to find us once a quarter if you get lonely. Okay. Thank you for your contribution to our system and what you do for your students each and every day. So you are a living legacy, and we are grateful. Thank you. Our next bittersweet item, our resolution of appreciation for Regent Ashley Humphrey. And with that, I will call on Regent Stites.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm so thankful to be here at this historic occasion because I'm told this is the first time in the history of TBR that a student has been selected twice in a row. And I'm so proud to be able to do this. I've thought, how in the world can I hire this girl because she's so talented? I started looking down the list of people in my company. I realized she might take my place. So she's going to do great, I'm sure of that. I'm proud to be able to bring this resolution before the board. Whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Ms. Ashley Humphrey for her dedicated and valuable service as student regent. And whereas Ms. Humphrey was appointed student regent by the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the State of Tennessee for the 2012, 2013, and the 2013 and 2014 academic years, and as such, she has been an instrument of positive and effective change. And whereas Ms. Humphrey's contributions to higher education are commendable and have included providing insight on important issues concerning legislation impacting students and student life on TBR campuses. And whereas Ms. Humphrey has used her experiences and unique perspective to devote considerable time and effort as a member of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and the Finance and Business Operations Committee. And whereas during her tenure with the board, Ms. Humphrey unfailingly fulfilled her responsibilities through active and eager participation in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system. and whereas she is an individual of high integrity and wisdom with truly a sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and the Tennessee higher education, and whereas her tenure has been marked by selfless support of the system and a number of its individual institutions, now therefore be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Ms. Ashley Humphrey for her dedication and many contributions to the Tennessee Board of Regents system. Ashley, congratulations.
While he's hugging Regent Humphreys, we need a second.
I'll second.
So, any discussion? Were you going to say something, Regent Thomas? I'm sorry. Okay.
I have something
all
I'd
right.
like to say. I served with Ashley on the University of Memphis search, and she was really great, asked a lot of great questions, participated. It was at Austin P too? Were you at Austin P? I guess it was Darrell. But anyway, I don't know how.
Difference between me and Ashley.
There is a little bit of difference. Slightly.
She's a lot better
slightly.
than me.
Okay.
She's on Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee Tech. I knew she had served on a couple of searches, but anyway, she's really been outstanding, and she's just gonna, no telling what she's gonna accomplish in life. So, enjoyed serving with you.
Regent Duckett.
Yes, this is truly a bittersweet moment because I have worked with Ashley during her tenure on the board, and the resolution speaks extremely well. I have a tremendous respect and appreciation for the work that she has done. She will go very far in life. She has proven to be a quick study, and that has impressed me tremendously. But one of the things that I did note early in her tenure on this board is that she has maturity and professionalism beyond her years. And for that, I think you'll do well, and I will personally miss your service here, but I know we will be hearing and reading about you in other endeavors. So thanks for your work.
All in favor? None opposed, I know. Congratulations. And your comments, Regent Humphrey?
I will keep these short. I'm not a pretty crier. But I just want to say it's been nothing short of both an honor and privilege to work with each of our board members as well as our staff at the Board of Regents. I have developed tremendous mentors and also a huge passion for higher education that I didn't know was possible. I'm very proud to be a product of this system, and I look forward to seeing what we accomplish in higher education in future years, and I hope to continue to be a part of that.
Thank you. We're going to make you continue to be a part of it. So you are an extraordinary individual, so thank you. Well done. Well done. And one more bittersweet moment. Regent Roddy, a resolution of appreciation for President Tim Hall.
Well, as an alum of Austin P and having the pleasure with several board members of serving on the search committee that selected President Tim Hall, it is indeed an honor, a pleasure, a high honor to read the resolution of appreciation for the service of President Tim Hall to the Tennessee Board of Regents and to Austin P. Whereas on May 18, 2007, the Tennessee Board of Regents approved the recommendation from Chancellor Charles W. Manning to hire Tim Hall as the next president of Austin P State University, and whereas under Tim Hall's leadership, Austin P State University entered a 7-year period of tremendous growth and national prominence. And whereas as president of Austin P State University, he increased enrollment so that it had become the fastest growing university in Tennessee, increasing from 9,094 students in 2007 to 10,873 in 2011, including significant increases in minority enrollment. And whereas he facilitated a net increase of 62 faculty lines, bringing the student-faculty ratio down to 19-1, allowing more opportunities for students to work closely with instructors and professors while maintaining the personal attention that is a hallmark of the university. And whereas he led efforts to construct 9 new facilities, including a 3-building residential complex, the new Maynard Mathematics and Computer Science building, and a new $19 million Governor Stadium set to open in the fall of 2014. And whereas he put a new emphasis on retention and graduation rates, resulting in Austin Peay leading the state in performance, topping the charts within both the TBR and the University of Tennessee system. And whereas he successfully led a campaign to raise nearly $40 million in gifts and pledges during a silent phase of the university's capital campaign, including the 2 largest single gifts in Austin Peay history, one of which exceeds $13 million. And whereas Austin Peay received a somewhat unfamiliar level of national attention during his tenure, with the university regularly recognized in publications such as the Chronicle of Higher Education, the New York Times. In fact, I think that's where they heard about Dr. Hall.
Oh, no. Stop that.
Yes.
No more PR.
Public Purpose, The Economist, and The Guardian. And whereas this recognition was further elevated when Bill Gates mentioned Austin Peay while speaking about college innovation during the summer of 2012, and President Obama praised Austin Peay's efforts in his speeches about college affordability. And whereas he was lauded by New York City-based nonprofit Public Agenda for his leadership tactics and for creating a climate of trust and enthusiasm among the Austin Peay faculty, staff, students, and alumni, including me. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents express its sincere appreciation to Tim Hall for his outstanding contributions and leadership to the system, and wishes him the very best in his new position as president of Mercy College in New York. And I'm sure if he were here, he would want me to reveal the cry, "Let's go Peay."
Thank you for that slightly off-scripted, energetic presentation of the resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of this great resolution for President Hall signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Clearly there are none. To Tim and Lee Hall in the great state of New York, we missed you, we appreciate you, and thank you for your tremendous service to Austin Peay and to our TBR system. At this point in time, I'm going to turn the program over to Regent Thomas to conduct our election for the chair and vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The terms of our chairman and vice chair extend for 1 year from July 1st through June 30th of the following year. So it is required that we elect a new chair and vice chair at the June meeting. The floor is now open for nominations to be chair of the Tennessee Board of Regents for the next 12 months.
I nominate current Vice Chair Emily Reynolds. Excuse me, I nominate the governor.
I was going to say.
Chair. And for Vice Chair, I nominate our current chair, Vice Chair.
I second that nomination.
Emily Reynolds.
Well, we're cutting through this right quickly, but we have a motion that includes both of these offices, which I think are in order, Secretary Moody, but is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it. I already seconded it.
We have 2 seconds. Will you please note that? Is there any discussion on this motion? If not, is this a roll call or voice vote?
I think since you only have one nomination, you can do a voice vote.
All right. All
Someone
in favor
could
of this motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. And on behalf of the governor, thank you as well. So, no, I have thoroughly enjoyed this experience in the 4 years I've been on this board and the last year as your vice chair. So obviously I am humbled and honored to have another bite at this apple, so to speak. There is not a day that passes that I am not proud to be a Tennessean. And the last 2 days of being with the extraordinary people around this table here in the land of golden sunshine at Tennessee State University just underscores all the important work that's being done in this state. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We have just a few housekeeping items to finish up here, and again, I appreciate everybody's patience. Our September meeting, which will be here before we know it, is at Pellissippi State in Knoxville. Mark your calendar for committee meetings on Thursday, September 25th, beginning just after lunch once again, and our full board meeting on Friday, September 26th. When we complete our work here today, once again, a reminder for our presidents and our directors and our board, we'll be doing group pictures outside, hopefully very quickly in this heat. So the more organized we are, the more quickly we can get this done. Chancellor Morgan, any announcements?
Just a couple of real quick things. One, just let me thank Carol and Sanja and Phyllis and Matthew for the great work they do every time we have this meeting. We very much appreciate it. And also, you have in front of you, I think, a form, an evaluation tool. That's something that, based on the conversations we've been having, felt like it would really be helpful for all of us to have some feedback from you about the meeting and the nature of the meeting, the agenda items, and so forth. So please, if you will, either complete that now or get it to us. We'd very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yep, take a minute on those evaluation forms. Dr. Glover, any closing comments? And once again, our heartfelt thanks for a great couple of days. And the music last night was extraordinary from our students, just remarkable.
Vice Chancellor Reynolds, thank you all very much, Board of Regents, Chancellor Morgan. Thank you all for visiting the campus of TSU. We enjoyed having you here. We enjoyed hosting it. We hope you enjoyed yourselves as well. And we look forward to your next visit. Feel free to visit us anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. So remember, belts to bones as we head home. As we drive to 55, I know we may drive a little faster than that headed home today, but together we are driving to 55 in this great state. There is no further business to come before this board. We appreciate you all. Have a great weekend. We are adjourned.